All right, everybody. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the show, guys. Happy Sunday. This is the Archie Luxury live stream. I'm your host, Patel Philippe, Ice Cubitist, The Zeal, The Narrative, whatever the fight you want to call me. We're going to go through some watch talk today. Bit of history, bit of modern, interpretations of like what's going on with watches, answering, or responding to some comments I heard over the weekend from other YouTubers, kind of talking about the end of 2024. And, their hated lineups and whatnot. So we're going to go through a couple different topics. Obviously, you guys control the narrative in the chat. If you guys want to super chat, if you want to ask questions, we're more than happy to obviously go on tangents, in Watch Talk. But we want to obviously, serve the punters this morning. Make sure you guys get some Watch Talk. And this is a man I know who loves Watch Talk. We got Rich Mitch in the chat who says, Watch Talk, yes, yes, yes. Appreciate you, Rich Mitch. I literally just got my coffee this morning. And I had a topic I wanted to talk about. I didn't really get through it yesterday. So I figured, you know what? I'll do a little bit of a shorter show, maybe an hour, maybe two today, depending on how much time I have. Just kind of go through, just some comments I heard and to kind of set the stage for you guys. We got Mrs. Wilkinson in the chat here who says, good morning. Hi, Lexi. Sorry, that's Aaron Fletcher who says, good morning. Hi, Lexi. I'm from Fairhaven, Massachusetts. Well, unfortunately, Aaron, Lexi's show starts at like 5:30 in the morning Eastern time. It's super early. He only ran it for an hour, so I never really get to watch that show. I check it out the odd time I'm up, but it's really, really difficult for me. We got Mrs. Wilkinson in the chat, sending much love from bitterly cold Cotswolds and love for the Pont. Appreciate that. We got Work Boot who says, let's do this. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got Discount in the chat up late who can't hear. I can't hear a Viking thing. Discount, how's it going? And yes, Aaron Fletcher now knows exactly who it is. And hello to you, Aaron Fletcher. Let me know if the audio is not coming in great. My headphones have been a little spotty the last couple of days. Higgins always complains about it, but let me know if there's a problem, and I'll try to fix it for you guys. We got Jefferson Exotic, who's he's generally here for the drama, and always appreciate him checking us out when we do some watch talk. We always diverge into a bit of drama for Jefferson Exotic as we roll along. But I think we're caught up to the chat here, guys. Okay, so topic of the day. So I heard a sound is sound. Okay, thanks so much, Rich Mitch. Let's get started. Okay, so I heard a comment over the weekend. I'm not going to name out YouTubers and whatnot. I'm just going to kind of talk about the comment and how I see the comment. And a lot of it is centered around the whole Thierry Stern message that he said, in that news article. Basically, the narrative is, a lot of folks are putting the Cubitists on their, dislike list for 2024. Rightfully so from a design perspective. I get it. It's not for everybody. But I think there are some folks that are saying, well, you know what? I'm put off by Stern's comments, and what the comment was, all the kind of critics of the Cubitists, Thierry Stern basically said, hey, look, those people are people that don't own our watches or will never own our watches in the future. Now, again, I'll say this for a fact, not really the best thing a CEO should say if he's trying to spruik watches, but I think he's kind of speaking about what a lot of us were thinking. So I'm going to take you guys through a bit of the history of one of Patek Philippe's most iconic watches, a watch that's considered boring today. I'm going to tell you guys why it's not boring. We do a little bit of a different style of watch talk here on the Archie Luxury live stream channel. We don't really need to read off of European watch companies' website or do it. We actually got real watch collectors, real watch enthusiasts, people who actually know shit about watches who've been collecting for over a decade plus. I'm generally joined by a lot of folks, Higgins and many others that join me on the panel, Saad, Professor, a lot of folks that, have a very, very long history of watch collecting and can give a different perspective than just, hey, this watch is hyped, or hey, this watch is, is worth X money. So I worked with him like the iPod when it came out either. All right. So one of the most storied watches in Patek Philippe's history, a watch that, like I said, is considered boring, or people call it boring as Fike, is the Patek Philippe Calatrava, a lineup that many people don't understand today. Generally speaking, if you're a Patek Philippe buyer that's kind of just started collecting, and you go on the forums or you go anywhere, you ask which Patek should I buy, you'll probably have 7 or 8 out of 10 is going to say buy a sports model, and probably 7 or 8 of those people can probably tell you get the Nautilus or the Aquanaut, right? So it's it's an interesting dynamic we have today where that is where everybody is gravitating. Everyone's telling you to go in that area, right? And what I and a lot of folks, kind of are like, well, I don't really understand the Calic. Like, why do they have this range? It's not successful, et cetera, right? So, what I want to kind of explain to everybody is I want to give you guys the history of this lineup, how it's its importance in watchmaking, its importance to the brand itself, and why I absolutely disagree and think those that are telling you that, hey, you just need to buy the Nautilus or the Aquanaut are steering you in the absolute wrong direction. And look, we're talking about a timeless design that was created by this brand, and it's a design that we take for granted today. Because it's been replicated so many times. Not only from the brand itself, but also other brands that replicate the Calatrava design, the design that was basically from the school thought of Bauhaus. Form follows functionality. Um, and really, it's not something complicated for you guys to understand. All the kind of terminology, Bauhaus, form, function, all that shit. Like, all you need to know is the watch was created with the purpose of being very functional, but also, you know, being artistic and being beautiful, right? Functionality and beauty didn't have to be separated. That was the whole mantra of the design, was we want something that's functional, but that's beautiful and simple. And that's really what you got with the Calatrava. Now, easy to say, right? It's easy for us to sit here in 2024 and be like, yeah, Tan, well, you're not telling me anything revolutionary, or you're not telling me anything that's, that I haven't heard about 1,000 times, right? But what a lot of people haven't talked about, every one of these like watch YouTubers or watch forums or watch articles you see, a lot of it's regurgitating the same shit. Okay. Um, and what a lot of it misses is we take for granted how difficult this was actually to make, right? Like, we look at it today when we see like multiple replicas and multiple, versions of, this design that Patek Philippe created in the 1930s, for the simple Calatrava case, the simple Calatrava design. Like, that was also an industrial design marvel, right? Like, hopefully ID guy does watch this channel. I know he does. I've met him from this channel. I would love to hear ID guy's perspective of this, because it's so, we take for granted how difficult this probably was to create this icon. And we're talking 1930s. Okay. So let me start from the start point of the Calatrava's history and explain why, this overlooking this, people that are telling you to overlook this, all these hype collectors have no fucking understanding of watch collecting, the history of the brand, the history of watchmaking in and of itself. Okay. And that's why you don't see me around a lot of these channels, because I don't get a lot from them, guys. I really don't. I come here to learn. I come here to educate. I come here to socialize and converse with other collectors. But yeah, like let me kind of start from the get go of the of the Calatrava, and how this icon was created, and the impact it's had. Okay, so a lot of articles out there. A lot of them are pretty, like, and they don't have a lot of substance to them, but some of them do. And I'm going to pull up a few of them that I think are pretty good and pretty relevant. So let's start off by looking at the history of Patek Philippe. So Patek Philippe was owned. For those that don't, Patek Philippe today owned by the Stearns. These are the ancestors. So this is Jean and Charles Stern, who ended up buying the brand when it went under financial turmoil around the time of the Great Depression. Okay. Patek Philippe is a brand, and this is where I'm going to respond to the whole, well, I don't want to buy this brand because it's pretentious, and they tell me, well, you can't criticize my watch, because you don't own one, you never will. Like, let's start about the history of the brand. Okay, prior to the Stearns buying the brand, we're talking about when Anthony Patek and Adrian Philippe and these guys owned the brand, and either subsequent family members after them, right? The watches from Patek Philippe, they were made for the ultra luxury. They always were. Okay. We're talking like, Henry Graves, you're talking, Queen Victoria, like these watches, you really kind of think of the manufacturer as really think of the independents today. Think of the Reshepis, think of that. That's kind of how I would look at Patek Philippe, in this era, not exactly as it is today, but really a brand that catered to the ultra wealthy. Okay. And ironically, obviously, the roaring 20s are happening and the Great Depression had a lot of these ultra wealthy, lost a lot of their money. And that was the client base of Patek Philippe. That's why they went under turmoil, right? Because they just came across, a situation that really impacted a lot. I mean, it impacted the world at that time and, fell under because the brand was never, for the mainstream. So this is when I hear people saying, well, I'm put off by this. I'm like, guys, like, this is like this is not a fucking secret. This has been in existence since like the early 1900s, like 1800s even. Like what are people talking about? And this is what I'm telling you guys. There's so much like lack of understanding of the history, and that's where people just they just fucking verbal diarrhea shit. And when I listen to that, I'm like, what the fuck? So a period of time when the ultra luxury are buying their watches, and Patek Philippe's a completely different company, right? They're doing bespoke pocket watches. They've made their first perpetual calendar, but again, it wasn't a serially produced thing. Patek Philippe today is known for complicated dress pieces, but at that time, it wasn't what they were producing only. They did a lot of stuff, but a lot of it was commission, was for the ultra luxury, really a true ultra luxury brand. Okay, at the time. Now, no one needs a history lesson on the Great Depression. That happens. The brand starts suffering, and they look to, they're looking to sell. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I'm going to read this super chat from Rich Mitch, and I'm going to get back to the story. Rich Mitch, thank you so much. £2 I come here to learn from Guru Philippe. Thank you so much, Rich Mitch. Look, I'm no guru. I'm no expert. I'm a watch enthusiast like you guys are, right? I'm of the belief that why is that book A Man and His Watch so popular? Why does everybody have that book? It's because of the stories, right? Like watch collecting is about the stories. It's about what watches evoke, emotionally from you, and it's less about what a lot of people talk about today in the value retention, the hype, and the money, and more about the love, right? So back to the history. Thank you so much, Rich Mitch. Back to the history. So 1930s, happens. The owners of Patek Philippe are now looking to sell the company, and there's two buyers. Okay, there's two buyers that are in play. One of the buyers is their movement maker. That's the Lecoultre brand, obviously the predecessor to Jaeger Lecoultre, and their dial makers, which is a company called Stern Frere Cadran, which means Stern Frere dials, Stern brother dials. Okay, so these are the Stern brothers here on the screen, Jean and Charles Stern, and Jean-Charles Henri Stern, and they end up purchasing the company. Now, they are coming off of around this time, and we're talking again in the infancy of wristwatches, right? Like wristwatches really gained popularity or gained some form of normalcy, I would say, with men um, around the time of the First World War. Okay, so watchmaking wristwatches are in their infancy, guys. Like we're not even in World War II here. We're in that period between World War I and World War II. So these two brothers come out, they buy Patek Philippe, and they say, look, we can't just cater to the ultra luxury, ultra rich, right? Like Queen Victoria's, all these super, Maharajas in India and all these other fuckers, right? Like we can't just cater to these guys. Okay, we need to, and take this with a grain of salt. We need to make something a bit more mass market. Okay, so their idea of mass market was the Calatrava. Now, when we talk mass market, guys, again, these watches are very, very expensive. We're still talking, quite, wealthy people buying these pieces, but they create this watch from the Bauhaus style, a simple watch that is functional, that is elegant, and that is really aesthetically pleasing to the eye. And we take this for granted today because it just looks so simple. It looks so, it just looks so vanilla in that sense, because there's so many watches that have replicated this over time, including the brand itself. Okay, so but at the time when wristwatches are in infancy, there is not a plethora of other designs out there, right? These are the creators. These are the creators that are making these watches for the first time. And the reason I kind of called out ID guy, to chime in too, is because if you really think about it, all of these brands today, like this whole impetus, this whole beef around the Cubitus or the AP code 1159 or the VC 56, right? Name me a new lineup that's come out in the last 10, 15 years that has become a design icon. Really, like That's how difficult this is, guys. Like, for everybody to think that this is just simple shit that they put together and it's boring is really a massive overlook of the fact that, like, they can't even do this today. They can't make an icon today. Like, I'm challenging everybody in the chat. Like, tell me an icon that they've made in the past 10 to 15 years that has any kind of a status that's close to this. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to explain to everybody is why this watch shouldn't be overlooked is, and this watch, the reference 96. So this is the first Calatrava that comes out from Patek Philippe. Whenever you hear Archie say the term Le Grand Classique from Patek Philippe, this is the name for the Calatrava or the reference 96, the original, the Grand Classique inside Patek Philippe. That's what they call it because it is the watch that saved the brand. They create this watch in the 30s, and it just it really surges the brand back to existence. They have a bit of a bigger market now to sell these watches to. Still very expensive. Still the wealthy are buying them, but they've now moved into creating an icon that's a bestseller that's out there. Today, we look at this, we see it's boring, right? It's a dress watch, it's a grandpa's watch. Why was it a grandpa's watch? Ask yourself that question. Why was it the grandpa's watch? Why does it look like your grandpa was wearing a watch like this? Well, because it was popular, because it was aesthetically pleasing, because people wanted it. Okay. And, it may not have been a Patek Philippe that your grandpa was wearing. He could have been wearing an Omega Seamaster from back in those days or whatever it may be. Dress watches that have very similar design to the Calatrava. Like, that is why it's called the grandpa's watch, is because it was so popular and we saw people of those generations wearing these dress watches. And this is where I say it's so dangerous right now for people to be, taking, I'm talking to the investors here, the people that are investing their money, taking a lot of their net worth and putting them into these, what they perceive as blue chip pieces. I would say this. Watches, and this is not new to anybody, but watches have no functionality realistically to us today, right? Like Jimmy C said it very famously on this channel: your phone's your watch. Okay, from a timekeeping perspective, nobody really uses the complications. Like, we all try to pretend we use them, right? But nobody's like using the fucking diving bezel for its real purpose on the Submariner or other things. Like, it's very few people use the complications for their real purpose these days, and so what these are realistically their jewelry, their fashion. Okay. Well, if you think that fashion is going to stay the same forever, I mean, I think you're sorely fucking mistaken. And when we look at it in that lens, that wristwatches are now fashion. Um, they're not about functionality in that sense. They're like nobody's using these complicated. Like, nobody buys a watch to say I need this watch because it's essential to my life. To perform, unless you're going up to the moon or some shit, right? Like, it's not essential to life. So you're mostly buying these for the flex, for fashion, really for that purpose, right? So this watch, the reason why this watch has, the reference 96 was in production for 40 years. Okay, so from the 1930s till the 1970s, 40 years. For a watch to be in production for 40 years, that means it's got to have some level of, timelessness to its design, right? Think Submariner, think Calatrava. Like, there's certain watches that are replicated so much that it's laughable. We can name these off the top of our head, okay? But they do that because they created something that really will remain timeless. There are very, very few pieces of fashion and design that remain timeless like that. But even then, right, like, there are a lot of situations where timeless design has fallen out of favor. I'm going to give you a classic example: the Porsche 911. Right, the Porsche 911 has always been about evolution over revolution. Very similar to the Rolex Submariner, very similar to the Calatrava. It's always been about evolution over revolution. Now, the 911 is ironically probably the same design right now as they had, in the 60s when it came out. But Porsche themselves were trying to move away from the 911 because, they wanted to give something more exciting, more contemporary to their buyers, and they massively failed at it, right? Think Porsche 928, the Scarface car from the movie Scarface, Porsche 944, the four-cylinder, transaxle. Like, Porsche tried to create an icon after the 911, and they couldn't, okay? And this is why I tell you guys, like, this may seem like a boring collection to you guys, or maybe it's not in fashion today. Just like that 911 wasn't in fashion maybe at that period of time in in the 2000s or what it may be, right? Like what is absolutely critical here is to understand that this is fashion, and I'm going to give you my kind of thesis around why I think it's fashion. So I've asked a lot of people this question. I said, if the dress watch is dead, because everyone says, oh, dress watches are dead, I don't buy dress watches. If the dress watch is dead, okay, very simple, very simple question. If the dress watch is dead, why was a brand like Daniel Wellington popular a few years ago? Right, Daniel Wellington was a brand that was marketed to the youth, whether it's teenagers, people in their early 20s, you could say, generally for a younger crowd, I would say, right? Not really sport watches. And I think the first response people will say is, well, Tan, it was cheap, right? Well, I mean, there's a fuckload of cheap watches out there. Daniel Wellington ain't the only one. And even if it was cheap, you know, younger people are not just going to put something ugly on their wrist. They're just not. Okay, it's not going to get the popularity that a brand like Daniel Wellington had with the youth, and the youth were wearing like dress watches. We could say, from a watch collector, a watch enthusiast perspective, they're wearing dress watches. From the perspective of somebody who's young, it's just a watch on a leather strap. It's different than what their father is wearing, which is a Submariner on a steel bracelet. This is why I'm telling you guys, like, the watches we perceived as the grandpa watches, when we're looking at a generation before us, what do you think that our children, grandchildren, if you have grandchildren, what are they looking at? Right? They're looking at the wrist of their grandfather or father wearing a Submariner, a GMT, some form of a watch on a bracelet, maybe an integrated watch on a bracelet, whatever it may be. And they're like, you know what? I want to be different than that. I don't want to look like my father or grandfather. So let me put one on a leather strap, right? They don't look at that as a dress watch. We look at it as a dress watch because we have been socialized in that sense from, either YouTubers or people on the forums. Like every one of us, when we started watch collecting, a lot of us, at least in the more modern era of like the internet, have gone on the forums, have gone on and asked somebody like, what should I get? Or what's popular, right? We looked around, and watch collectors, watch enthusiasts have really typecasted the watch on a leather strap as the dress watch. You have to be wearing a tuxedo or a suit. You can't wear this, and it's not functional. You can't wear this in other scenarios. And I call bullshit on that. You guys see the way I dress. I'm going to pull up my little avatar here, which was a rendition of it was a live stream I was doing at a car meet, and our boy Perfect Dark made a little bit of a rendition of it. And look, I mean, I'm wearing a baseball cap, wearing a t-shirt, and like I actually have a little video here, guys. Let me play that video, and I'll show you what I mean. You do not need to wear this, guys, with a suit or with a tuxedo or whatever bullshit, right? Let me play this quick clip, and then we'll get back to the narrative.
So in front of Langhe Unzone with my man, Tan the Man.
Yes, sir.
And it's a triple split.
Triple split.
Look at that. Amazing. We just came back from Goyard. And we got something special for Pontiff.
We got a little something in here for the Pontiff. And look, as you guys know, as much as I respect Lange, it's only about paddock and pussy, baby.
Paddock and pussy. Excellent. Thank you.
Paddock and pussy, baby. Look, I'm not wearing a fucking tuxedo there, guys. As you can see, baseball cap, t-shirt, wearing a perpetual calendar. Look, it's you make it. It's so funny how we typecast shit when everybody who's looking at this and saying, well, I don't want to follow that that viewpoint of it's a dress watch and it has to be worn with a tuxedo. For me, it's like, well, no, look, like these watches can be worn whatever way you want. Everybody talks about, a 10, like the water resistance. I'm like, listen, motherfuckers, you guys are not diving every fucking day of your life. I know for a fact you're not, right? I can guarantee you most of you guys are not going in the pool every day of your life, right? And you know that there's a thing called taking off your watch before you go into the pool. Like, you guys know that you can take your watch off, right? Like, you don't have to take it in the pool. Now, not to say that you can't take some of these. I mean, Patek Philippe themselves have said you can take their dress watches in the pool. I don't know if you want to agree with that, but look, let me get up to the chat here real quick. There's been a few comments here, and then we will go from there. All right, so let me go back to Cannoli Cream, the guru of horology. I wouldn't say that, but I'm just a guy who likes to talk watches with you guys. Mass market property. There we go. Topster McDonkey, people whining that Stern doesn't give a fuck about Cubitus haters because they aren't his customers. He's right. Why should he care about gray market? He cares about people buy from you from the AD. Yeah, I mean, Topster, it's not even that. I think the way he sees it is a lot of folks are just trying to hate for the sake of hating. They don't really understand. Like, this is what he means, right? Like, they don't really understand what the brand is doing because they are not enthusiasts of the brand. They're not buyers of the brand. And look, people get turned off by it that may want to get into that, into that brand. And that's where I think it's stupid for a CEO to ever say shit like that. But yeah, I mean, if you do a bit of research, this brand has always been about the ultra rich. It's always been that way. For better or for worse. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I like the brand because of what they make. Don't really care about the elitism part of it, but and I don't even think that exists. I mean, I don't walk around like Archie does, saying I'm wearing a Patek Philippe on my wrist and I'm better than you, right? So, Topster McDonkey, Cubitus is nice, but still a miss because of the round rear crystal and slapped in movement for that price and name. Should bespoke square movement. Yeah, look, I would agree with this on a certain level, Topster. Other levels, right? It's not uncommon for circular movements in square watches. Think of the caliber 11 in the Monaco, right? Something like that. Not really. It's not really unusual, but I would agree. I think, look, if you're spending 8 years, 10 years building a new watch lineup, you should be building a movement for it. However, I mean, economies of scale, they're going to reuse the movements they make for all their other watches and slap them in. Is this lazy? I think this is a byproduct of the entire industry. I don't think this is just a byproduct of Patek Philippe as a brand. And that's where I think this brand gets a lot of hate because of just that whole ultra luxury view, in the market, right? Like, people look at it as the pretentious brand. And so when they go out and say something like that, that can be perceived as pretty darn pretentious, it fuels a lot of anger towards the brand. But I'm, like, it was funny because Mr. G, I always bring Mr. GMT up because the whole Cubitus thing was going on a few months ago or a month or two ago. His comment was Patek is being lazy. And I said, I came on the stream and I'm like, guys, like, what are you guys talking about? Like, the same people are like Bear Clooney watches is a good example. He's simping the white dial Speedmaster as the greatest watch of 2020. Like, it's a fucking different colored dial. Like, what are you talking about, Bear? Like, how is that, how is that the best watch of 2024? And yet Patek is lazy, right? Like, look, the brand gets a bad shake because, they're the pretentious brand. They're the brand that's out of reach for a lot of people. I get it, right? And they're going to generate the most hate. It's not like, guys, this is not surprising to me. People are like, oh my God, like, it's such a big story to a lot of people. I don't find it surprising at all. Matt Lindell, I would take the Calatrava or the Nautilus or the Pubitus every day of the week. Look, I even, it's funny. My first watch, full disclosure, from Patek Philippe was a Nautilus. I bought a 5711. I fell under the same trap a lot of you guys did, where it's like, hey, what watch should I buy? And everyone on the forums is saying, buy the Nautilus. They even told me, don't buy the Aquanaut. It's the poor man's Nautilus. Do not buy the Aquanaut. Buy the Nautilus, right? Well, I ended up selling the Nautilus, and I haven't really bought a sports Patek since. I've moved into complicated dress watches, moved into Calatravas, because I learned a bit about the history, which I'm going to get back to in a second after I kind of get through the chat here. Frank V, I time my toilet sessions to avoid health issues. I believe that's a utility. There you go. Bauhaus right there for you. The Goths, who says the Neptune's great watch, actually. It's a very obscure watch. But yes, we got the watch reporter in the chat, the Maharaja of Kakistan. Appreciate you in the chat, watch. I'm glad you liked my segment on kind of fighting Higgy on those independent watches, because I think there's a bit of bullshit that's being spit on that level. Archibald's horns are perpetual counters. They grow at plus or minus 1 second for your day. I like that. Let's go on. Pedro Bermudez in the chat. The Goss. Daniel Wellington was a dress watch on a NATO strap, so even that was kind of funky. Yeah, like these are not. We would perceive them, Goss, as dress watches. If you were to show a Daniel, take the Wellington name off the watch, and you just showed it to somebody, slap on another name, slap on Moser, slap on IWC, slap on Chapek, slap on any name on that watch besides Daniel Wellington, and watch collectors will tell you it's a dress watch. Completely ignoring the fact that it's popular with the youth, and they will tell you it's not popular and you should avoid it. Okay, like that is the key point here to understand. Watches are not about function anymore. They're not about you're not buying them for complications. You're not buying them, like everyone, including myself, is touting the Eternal calendar from IWC as the best watch of 2024. Technical marvel, 45 million years. That moon phase stays accurate. The watch, needs adjust. Now it does need adjustment at the year $23.99. I think there's some kind of a lever they need to install for it to go all the way to $34.99. But that watch is a technical marvel. However, I can't see a lot of you guys running out to buy it because it's a very simple dress watch. It's not, look, that watch is I think it's like $150,000, $170,000. That watch is going to sell at a fucking discount. I'm telling you. Like at some point, that watch is going to sell at a discount. It's just people aren't going to buy it. IWC perpetual minute repeaters are selling for $40,000. Fucking minute repeaters selling for $40,000. Like, so it's just it's funny how even though we can appreciate the technical marvels that are going in that watch, doesn't mean it's popular. It doesn't mean it's going to be a popular watch. And so watches these days are all about fashion. That's literally what it is. If you wanted to, if you just wanted to you want to skip all the nerdy horology or history bullshit, watches are just fashion. That's what they are. And for those that are trying to tout that invest in these pieces because they're the blue chips, right? I'm gonna be around in 10 years at that 10-year refresh. See how those guys that have bought, they've spent hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars buying a bunch of fucking tennis bracelets to buy a Hulk or whatever, a Cermet. I'm gonna be around in 10 years to kind of laugh at those guys when they can't afford the refresh. And that is the refresh may not even be the watches that they have bought today, right? They may think, oh, well, I'm just going to buy the updated Nautilus in 10 years. That doesn't necessarily mean the Nautilus is going to be the popular one, right? I think there's a bit of fatigue that's coming from integrated bracelet watches out there in the watch collecting sphere. So I'm just saying, guys, like fashion is very hard to predict. It is cyclical, and that is why you see a resurgence of the dress watch amongst the youth buying Daniel Wellington. It's a very, very simple thing to understand, but there's nobody talking about it because most of the people that come on here, they just come on. There's very little people actually educating. There's more people just kind of, joining the group think is what it is. It's like there's a few people educating that are kind of not giving the full perspective. There's not a lot of people speaking on the other side of the fence, so it's kind of a one-sided groupthink situation. We got the Saad in the chat, and I see Saad says, this is an automated notification, does not require a response. Happy New Year. Appreciate you, Saad. We got JB in the chat, and I see JB. Esoteric L. Most punters don't even shower. All right. Billie Jean's PhD. Patek will get you a wife. Rolex will get you one night stand. Who may or may not steal it in the wee hours of the morning. The brand Patek Philippe is becoming, a lot more mainstream from a name perspective, branding perspective. It's always been a brand that, if you were, it represented ultra luxury. It represented taste, fine taste in the finer things in life, you could say. But yes, it is becoming a bit of a more mainstream brand. John Galtan and Bear visiting. Hey, babies. Hold on. BC letting us know it's pure shite. Appreciate you, BC. Lange is Marcelo Times asking if he's banned. Well, no, if I can pull up your comment, you're not banned. Jefferson Exotic, Marcelo owes me 100-gram steak. We got Lab Rat 101. I only eat food with golden leaves on top. We got the Ghost of Yiddish Gambino. The Eternal Counter is a great watch. Can't wait to get. Yeah, look, I would agree with you on that one, Yiddish Gambino. I'm hoping. I don't know if that's going to be. I don't know if that's going to be necessarily I don't know if that's going to happen right away because there is a little bit of obviously media and interest and demand from just this interest, I'd say, from its splash on in a year that's really a bunch of mediocre watches anyways. So I don't know, in a banger year of watches, would the Eternal Calendar have been as as prominent? I don't know. But yeah, it may take a year or two for other watches to come out for people to forget about that watch. But when it does happen, I'll agree with you, man. I'll be around to see where that lies because that drops into an affordable range around 30 or 40K. It may be worth looking into. All right, who else do we have in the chat? We got JB. JB says, fashion to predict is not hard. Just follow Kanye. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point, JB, because that has driven, as much as we think this is a joke, right? Like hip hop culture has driven a lot of, I asked this to Hoff actually, who's obviously in the music industry, on how even, hip hop culture has evolved in watch collecting. Like if you're talking about like the 90s, think like Tupac, the classic, Tupac album where California Love came out on, All Eyes on Me and everything else. Like he's wearing a gold Day-Date with a Day-Date kind of bracelet on his gold date 8 on the left, date 8 bracelet, like a bracelet on the right. So really Rolex, Rolex, Rolex. A lot of music at that time in the 90s was talking about Rolex, especially the president, date 8. And as you evolved into kind of the 2000s, you got like Jay-Z coming up, Kanye and others. And Jay-Z, obviously a big proponent of Audemars Piguet. So AP started becoming a household name, I would say, from popular culture. Then you got guys like Migos that came out after that, who were a bit more of the new school generation. Because if you think at that time, what's really, really funny is about 6 or 7 years ago, there was and they still have these guys on Instagram, but there was a guy named Rolex Enforcer and obviously Fake Watch Buster. And what they would do is they would literally like call out fake watches of like rappers and stuff. Because there was a lot of misinformation that was going around, like a lot of hood jewelers that were like Frankensteining watches and selling them to rappers, or even selling them fake watches. So Fake Watch Buster, Rolex Enforcer, they used to go and call those guys out. There's a lot of, and Rolex, shout out to Rolex Enforcer. He was a huge fan of the Archie Luxury channel. I don't know if he's still listening in, but he was actually a really, really cool guy. But the Migos started, talking about Patek. They talk about Patek in a lot of their songs. Cardi B does, and everybody else. So Patek Philippe itself became a watch brand name that got into popular culture. So yes, there, as much as that this is a joke, JB, there is some truth to it in that, they are driving. The Nautilus became popular. It became red hot. The Nautilus was always a popular watch. I mean, when I bought my Nautilus in 2016, I paid over retail for it. Retail was like 24 or something like that. I think I paid like 25, 26, something like that. But I paid over retail for it, slightly over retail. It was always a hot watch. I remember calling my AD in Montreal and saying, hey, can I get a 5711 blue when I was, first looking to get my first Patek? And then, they were like, look, man, we get one a year, is what they told me. They're like, that watch is so rare. We only get one a year. They didn't ask me to buy a bunch of shit to buy it, but they were like, look, sir, I'm just going to have to let you know that, that watch is just not a possibility. Is what they told me at the time. This was way before all these like waitlist shits. This is when Rolexes were got at discounts. You could walk into a AZ and get a Submariner for a 30% discount. This was at that time. The Nautilus was, in more recent times, has always been a relatively popular or hot watch. It's not until that real craze that happened during COVID. And a lot of it, is sparked by popular culture, hip hop culture, actors that were wearing the Nautilus. I mean, Brad Pitt's very famous for wearing a Nautilus, and many others are famous. Jay-Z are famous for wearing, I think Jay-Z bought the Tiffany Nautilus. And that story in and of itself has an interesting angle of, Patek Philippe trying to sell its business, which I'll get to after I get back to the history here. Last one from the chat. Do you see that Noriega, DJ Khaled, Jay-Z, and Nas have copped several Cubitus? Yeah, I haven't seen that. I didn't even know that Noriega was into the brand. But, again, this is how it's becoming mainstream. It's becoming, with the advent of the internet, like I said, younger rap artists and musicians like Migos, they weren't going to get fooled by hood jewelers. They were on the internet. They would buy Pateks that were plain Jane. They wouldn't originally ice them out. They just bought plain Jane Patek Philippe's because it was different. It was different from their previous generation that was buying these bust down day dates and everything else because it was cool, right? Iced out. That term iced out was probably started in the early 2000s, you could say. And that referred to blinged out watches and primarily from rap artists that were using, especially buying day dates, I would say, or even date justs at the time. So back to the history of Patek Philippe. So we're in the reference 96. So this watch, like I said, is a watch that, if we think about it, at a time when wristwatches were in their infancy, to create an icon like this is very difficult. Why, I'll challenge people on why this is not a boring watch is you show me another watch that any of these brands, any brand besides Patek Philippe has created in the last 10 to 15 years that has had such iconic status. And I can guarantee you that it doesn't exist. Now, what's also interesting about this watch is Patek Philippe, prior to the reference 96 Calatrava, was primarily buying Ibosch movements. Like I mentioned, the Coultre was their movement manufacturer. Patek Philippe actually put an in-house movement in the Calatrava, which is pretty. I mean, we're talking in the 1930s, right? We're not talking about, I think it was Jonathan Quill Higgins that spoke about the whole datograph has kicked Patek's ass because they put in an in-house chronograph movement in their watches, right? Like we're talking at a time when this brand was simply, and many brands were simply not creating watches with in-house movements. They were buying Bosch movements. Patek Philippe actually created an in-house movement for this watch. Okay, in the 1930s. This is not early 90s when the Datograph comes out. So when I always say that Lange is a Phoenix brand and that they are very fortunate, they like people that are collecting Lange, collecting independence, like and I know Watch Reporter's listening, and this is kind of maybe even an add-on to the conversation yesterday. I think for those people that buy those brands to kind of snub their nose at the Trinity, have a lack of understanding of those brands wouldn't exist today if the Trinity hadn't kept going, if the Trinity hadn't kept the doors open, hadn't kept creating mechanical watches. And yes, many of them created quartz watches. Patek Philippe, not commonly known, is created the world's first solid state quartz watch. So it's not that these brands didn't create quartz watches, but they kept watchmaking alive when many of these other brands died. And so for Lange to be able to have the platform to create an in-house movement, right, an industry to buy that movement, right, to come on and say, well, they kicked Patek's ass, it's a complete disregard for the fact that Lange would not even have a market to sell that watch to. Or, so if you really think about it, brands like AP, Patek, Vacheron, Rolex that survived the quartz crisis, that stayed alive, that kept watchmaking alive, they set the stage for brands like Lange to create the Datograph. So I will argue and say the Datograph wouldn't exist without those brands. Okay, that is the real story that happened with the Datograph. I'm going to disagree with Ferrante. I'm going to disagree with Higgins. They are just going with the mainstream fucking story. They're just regurgitating the bullshit, that they just read online. That's all they're doing. Okay, I'm telling you the real fucking facts here. You tell me, could Lange have created those watches if there was no fucking market for that? No, they couldn't. How would they have a market for that? Well, brands that kept, creating watches, that kept pitching the beauty of mechanical watches over this, the basic, what they try to pitch is cheap, disposable, right? It's funny how we think of even electronics today. Very similar to the quartz, the quartz watches, right? Disposable, cheap, functional, accurate, but disposable, right? Whereas the story behind horology and mechanical watches is about you're buying a piece that's going to outlast you, right? Like I've worn my 1680 red sub was 50. It was older than I was, right? 50 plus years old. And I looked at my wrist and I said, what the fuck do we use in my house, in your house, that we still use today for 50 years? The days of TV repairmen are gone, right? When your TV breaks, you just go and buy a new one. When your refrigerator breaks, you don't really call the refrigerator repairman anymore. You just buy a new one, right? These appliances are not made anymore to last. They don't want to make them to last, because if they make them to last, they're not going to be able to sell you shit down the track. You know what I mean? That is kind of the catch-22 here. So brands like Lange wouldn't exist if these brands hadn't continued. And so, for people to kind of scoff at these watches today and say, well, they're uninspiring or the brand is uninspiring, completely disregard all the history, completely disregard the work that somebody actually put in to craft, something like this, to design something like this. Very, very simple, but very, very genius in and of itself before anybody else did. Okay, so that is really where the beauty of the Calatrava comes in. The name Calatrava was registered in the late 1800s. For everybody, Calatrava is an order, I believe, in Spain. It was an order in Spain that was defending, I think, a Christian. I don't know if it's a castle or a Christian, maybe monastery or a Christian area from the Moors, and it was an order called the Order of the Calatrava. And the name Calatrava didn't actually become a lineup name in Patek Philippe until the 80s, but they had registered the name Calatrava in the late 1800s, and the Calatrava cross has been on the crown of Patek Philippe watches since about the 60s. Okay, so the reference 96, the original quote unquote Calatrava, was not called the Calatrava. It was called the reference 96. It was the first reference to enter Patek Philippe's lineup to actually use a reference number. So when you hear me and Archie and and all these other guys are America 5726. Those numbers 5726, 5711, 5167, all these numbers that you guys know. The 96 was the first launch to create reference numbers with the brand. So pretty interesting. Not obviously a groundbreaking thing, but a pretty little interesting little tidbit of information. So here again is we have one here. In the reference 96, you can see here. This is a 12 Ling movement. So this is a Le Coultre movement. Beautiful, obviously, and again, here you got an internal angle on this movement. Like Patek Philippe was making, high end, and this is, I think, where Higgins is going to kind of, say, well, they typically would have rounded this off probably in modern Patek, whereas, in this vintage Patek, it's an actual inward angle, so it's really hand finished in that sense. So that's a 12 Ling movement. So as you can see here, powering the original Patek Philippe reference 96 was a 12 Ling movement from Le Coultre, so obviously a Bosch. Up until this point, Patek had always purchased its movements. However, this quickly changed under the Stern ownership. From 1934 onwards, the Le Coultre movement was replaced by Patek's new in-house caliber 12-120, developed under the direction of Jean Pfister, who was in charge of the technical development where these were created and was tasked with making the initial drawings of the in-house caliber. So again, right, it's a time when in-house movements, it wasn't a thing. We all talk about this. I think Marco Ferrante had said, the in-house movement craze was, all, really after the Datograph, and maybe on a mainstream perspective, yes. But I mean, brands like Patek Philippe were making in-house movements in the fucking 30s. Okay. They weren't just buying Bosch movements and just slapping them into these watches, and that was all they did, right? Like, no, they also made their own movements. They still bought Bosch movements, famous enough, the Lemania movement in the perpetual counter chronograph, for example, that stayed for up until recent times. But I mean, they made their own movements as well. It's not like they just bought movements all the time. Okay. A couple of variants of the reference 96, the Calatrava. Now, the Calatrava, for those that are new to Patek Philippe, you could make it akin to kind of the Datejust lineup in that sense, more from a variety perspective. Datejust have so many different dial variations and configurations. That's kind of how the reference 96 Calatrava was. Again, this model was produced from the 1930s all the way until the 1970s. So we're talking about 40 years of production. So a lot of different variations here. So we see here what they call an indirect central seconds. And why they call it indirect is they say that basically this movement, it was made possible through a collab between Victorine Piguet and Patek Philippe, which led to the development of an Bosch with an additional center seconds hands movement that was connected to the 12-120 subsidiary seconds register movement, hence the name indirect central seconds. They slapped it on to the 12-120 to get a central seconds variation, as opposed to in the previous one, you could see a small seconds at 6 sub-dial variant here. So again, kind of like a Datejust, right? There's a lot of different variations of the reference 96 Calatrava. So that's the central seconds one. You have ones that don't have center seconds here. So with that, actually the seconds removed from the watch. Here you have a variant, very this variant is quite sought after. It's the Breguet numerals variant of the Calatrava 96. Really cool. Obviously, there hasn't really been too many. The 5196 in platinum, I think, has a similar design to this one. But Breguet numerals on Patek Philippe is always a bit of an instant classic. So this is a very sought after version of it. You see steel versions as well. You have some steel versions. This one is, I don't know if this one's actually steel, but maybe it could be steel. But also a very, very popular one that a lot of folks seek after are the Arabic numerals, syringe hand layouts of them. Like, you can really find a reference 96 for anybody. And it's I would say that this is a really cool avenue to collect vintage Patek Philippe. They're not super expensive. They are expensive, like they're not cheap like Seikos, but vintage Seikos. But you can find Calatravas around that like $10,000 range, and really when you go into the high end, you're not really going past like annual calendar money. So you can go deep down the rabbit hole of collecting reference 96 Calatravas in all these different configurations. And there are, like, I don't know if you guys know the guy from the Armory, Mark Cho. He's done videos with Tim Mosso. He's a big Calatrava collector. He likes collecting these watches. I think he has his own reference 96 in a Breguet numeral format. But just a cool variant. So here we go. Here's the sector dial version of the Calatrava. Again, a pretty interesting one. You got Arabic numerals, 36912, sector dial format. Again, different. You can see a modern version or a modern interpretation of this one. Similar in the potentially 5296 sector dial Calatrava. So you do have modern versions that have looked at this design and copied this design and actually remade new watches for them. I'm going to get to this comment here. So Azza says, but these are a bit small. Interestingly enough, Azza, these were actually small even during that time. Okay, 31 mils. So this reference 96, he makes a good point. They are small. They're 31 mils. At that time, they were small as well. They actually made a different reference with a larger size or an oversized in the 565 and the reference 570. I'm going to get to that in a second after I get past the reference 96. I'm just showing you guys a few of these different variants. But Patek Philippe did address that, and they did have a market for it. So here's one of the reference 96s that I think a lot of folks don't know actually exists. So when we think of the Patek Philippe 5522, that was the pilot's watch. I remember when this came out, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, it looks like a fucking Zenith. Oh my god, it looks like a fucking Hamilton." I'm like, "Yo, like, do y'all not know that the brand makes watches like this? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is the kind of bullshit you're gonna hear on YouTube. Is, well, it looks like a fucking Zenith. It's because, like, you've just started collecting in the last 2 years, and you saw a Zenith that looks like this, but yet that Zenith probably copied this fucking design. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is the thing. Nobody calls out the bullshit. And I just do, man. I just think it's like, look, y'all need to fucking educate yourselves first before you go on the YouTubes and start spewing fucking nonsense. That honestly, like 100, 150, viewers are going to be like, oh my God. And then they're going to start up their own channel and regurgitate the same thing for 20 fucking years. Like, it just fucking frustrates me, guys. We got a very generous super chat from our friend CB, $10 US. 10, thank you for keeping the record straight on Patek Philippe history and culture. I'm called on, honey, to do assignments, but we'll watch the rerun for sure. Thanks. No, I appreciate that, CB. Happy holidays to you, sir. I know you've been traveling and you're home now for hopefully the holidays. So we keep the Watch Talk alive here. CB, I hear a bunch of shit online, and it's like, it's important to have a differing opinion. It's important to give people a bit of a different perspective. And so this watch, the 5522 Pilot's watch, one of the biggest comments out there was, oh my God, it looks like a Zenith. Oh my God, it looks like a Hamilton. Well, this is actually the reference 96 version of that, guys. Like, it was a historic version from Patek Philippe. The 5522 is even called the Calatrava's Pilot's watch. Okay, so it's not like Patek just fucking copied Zenith or copied Hamilton here, guys. Like, come on, right? There's a lot of copying that goes around the Swiss watch industry. Just because that's the only watch right, that looks like that, does not mean that one of the greatest brands of all time fucking copied Zenith. Like, fuck out of here. Like, we're talking about Zenith, the El Primero, that itself wasn't even probably the first automatic chronograph out there. I believe personally it's a Seiko speed timer. I owned a Seiko speed timer that was dated production model March 1969, which was a column wheel vertical clutch automatic chronograph. And I mean, that's really all Zenith has. Outside of maybe their connection to Rolex and the Daytona, like, it's really all they have is the old El Primo, the El Primero, right? That in and of itself has asterisks on whether it was the first. So, to say that Patek Philippe copied Zenith or Hamilton, like, I think you guys have a lack of understanding of this actual, like, how much history is in this brand, how much this brand has actually influenced the industry, and how these other brands that y'all are simping copied Patek. Like, fuck out of here, guys. Like, what are you talking about that, like, they copied Zenith? Like, what are you talking about? Watch Reporter says Patek copied Zero West. There we go, Watch Report. Appreciate that. Azza says, yes, this is true. Of course it's true, man. Like, I don't make this shit up. Esoteric copying to some degree is inherent. Yeah, I agree. 100%. 100% it is. I've got the rancher who's looking to hop on here to talk about copying of watches. But, the point is that this design is not like, it's hard to say, right? It's hard to say who copied who. Where people talking about copying today is they're talking about modern versions that they've seen, and they say, "Oh, well, that looks like something else." Well, I mean, do you really believe that like Hamilton invented something, or do you think maybe like Vacheron invented it, like probably prior to them? Not to say that Vacheron itself invented anything, right? They could have been copying somebody from the watchmaking days, from from pocket watches and that design, and they just slapped it into the wristwatch, guys. Again, copying, is absolutely right. What Esoteric Al is saying is to some degree it's inherent in the design process, but what where Esoteric Al it becomes kind of muddied or a bit of a gray area here. Morning, Clive. How you doing?
Good. Okay. Whoa. Time out.
Go ahead.
What year the watch on screen was it made?
I don't actually have the exact date of this year of this watch, but probably 50s, 40s, 50s, maybe could be 30s.
Okay.
Watch on
Do you want me to send you a picture by iMessage or by WhatsApp?
WhatsApp's better.
Okay. And it's actually one of my watches.
Yeah, Baggins says Watchport says the 30s on this one.
Okay.
Jeremy Curry says spicy and educational.
Oh yeah, hold on. Every time they say the Patek Philippe watch, and I like to say nice zenith just to piss them off.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know why I say that?
Tell me, Clyde.
Oh, here.
I haven't got it yet.
No, it's going to take me a second. Do you realize how many fucking watch pictures I've got?
Come on, Clives. Yeah, if Watchport says late 30s or 40s.
Goddamn it, you're getting lazy as Archie. If you'd coordinate for like half a goddamn minute.
Come on, Clive.
Talk about this. Oh. Okay.
All right. While Clive pulls that up, we got a couple folks in the chat who are enjoying the spicy and educational talk today. I don't want to rabbit hole too much on this watch clock, so I got lots.
No.
All right, so we got the Ghost of Yiddish Gambino, who says same thing goes for the 5524 and 7234 Patek travel time. Pilot Calatrava, there is a historic element to these pieces that are not most undervalued they're undervalued Yiddish Gambino because of kind of this whole, and I'm not to say that like watches have like design of certain watches haven't copied other watches. All right, here we go. We got I don't know if this is Uzi on the Uzi. We got 424 here showing us a hey Eddie, how you doing, man? What you got here on the screen?
It's Eddie, man.
What's going on, Eddie, man?
What are you doing?
I'm chilling, dog. Just talking watches, bro. What do you got on the screen? What are you wearing? Right? You wearing a Tudor? What are you wearing here?
It's like a Chinese watch.
You're wearing a Chinese Tudor? What are you wearing here?
It's a Chinese Thorn. It's a Thorn.
Thorn, baby, Thorn. Well, hey, look, Eddie, you know what? Like, again, right? We're talking about like copying and design. I mean, it looks like a Tudor, right? Like little snowflake hands on it, right? So,
hey, that's like a Flieger watch that you got on the screen there.
You know what? We got Clyde on the channel right now, the rancher. Eddie, he knows Fliegers better than anybody, so I'm excited to see what he's going to show me.
No. I have what I like, and I know what I like.
John Galt says Clivers has the dial-up Oki internet. Please be patient. All right, we'll be.
No, I've got. Do you realize how I'm having to pull the picture up? Do you realize how many fucking pictures of watches I have on my phone? Jesus fucking Christ!
That's okay, Clyde. Look, Clyde's just going to show us a watch that's going to be from Zenith.
Okay, look at, actually, here, you could probably pull it up quicker. Well, you may not be able to. Zenith Signal Core, just
Zenith Signal Core.
Yep.
Signal Core.
Hey, I was gonna ask you if
I can just take it. I have an order. So I'll just take a picture of it. Hold on.
Hey, Patel.
No, I found it.
I got a question for you, man.
Go ahead, Eddie, man.
Have you seen the new watch that came out? It's a Panerai. It's some kind of it's got like LED lights, but they're powered by some kind of generator that's got like another spring inside.
I haven't seen it, man. No.
It's called an Elux or something. It's expensive, like $100,000, man. For
Eddie, look, stick around. I'll pull it up after this. Like,
yeah. Hey, I was gonna say, that airplane that crashed in that Boeing 737. You know what happened? I'm gonna tell you what happened. But this is before anybody said it. I'm gonna say it first. So what happened? These guys forgot to drop the landing gear, man. They were distracted. They were fucking with their phone or something, and they forgot to drop the landing gear. Because those planes, when the landing gears drop, the only indication you have is the fucking 3 lights that turn on the on the dashboard in the plane, on the annunciator, whatever that's what it's called. There's 3 lights that tells you the gear is down. They turn green. When they're up, it turns red. And what's let's say the gear failed, that like the system fails, there's a way you disable the hydraulics. There's a switch override, and then the doors open, and then the gear falls down and locks itself in. It's gravity controlled. It's not you know what I'm saying? It's not you don't need any kind of hydraulic assist for the gear to go down. That's the design. And then let's say what happened was maybe they realized it was too late. By the time they touched down, you can't take off anymore because the tail can't go up. You know what I'm saying? Once you're on the ground, you can't take off with the landing gear not extended. You know what I'm saying? So that they were fucked.
All right, Toast, I'm in response. So he says Eddie's okay at times for such to hijack the show with nonsense left field bullshit. Look, man, I'll tell you guys something. I don't. I let everybody on. People want to talk watches. They want to talk whatever, guys. Like, this is not. This is kind of the difficult part about where we're at right now in the Archieverse is we don't have people hopping on who, for whatever reason, right? Because they don't want to sit there and have to run the show because Archie doesn't want to talk to them or whatever. So people want to hop on. They want to talk, man. I'm not going to stop people from doing that. I want to encourage people to do that, right? Whether it's Eddie or anybody else. All right. So, Clivers, I have the signal core on the screen here. Why don't you walk us through this nice officer's watch we have here?
Well, actually, it's the first American military wristwatch. It was made by Zenith in 1917 for the U.S. Army Signal Corps. And a lot of times the Signal, it's also a pilot's watch because at the time, America was late into the war, so it was trying to get its shit together and trying to play catch up for a little bit. So initially, a lot of its airplanes were being used for reconnaissance and also for communication, ergo Signal Corps. So basically, it's clearly just a small pocket watch with lugs on it.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Clyde. It's
1917.
But you see the point that you're making. It's a pocket watch that was slapped on, to whatever the strap. Like even designs like this, even the dial itself is taken from the pocket watch era, which in and of itself could have been a shit ton of copying that was going around. Like,
that was first.
Yeah, it's just funny to me that people, just allude and say, well, it's this, right? It's this copy of this, it's a copy of that. Like, they have no certainty around that. They have no real facts around that, and I tell people, I'm like, well, you're ignoring the fact that the brand did make historic watches of this same design that Yiddish Gambino pointed out, a minute ago on, I'm going to pull up his comment here.
That's right. We're saying here, let's pull up a Patek Philippe before 1917 with a similar design.
I'm sure we could, right? Like, it's not.
I'm not sure.
Well,
This was like literally within maybe within a decade and a half of the first wristwatch.
Yeah, but look at this watch, and then look at the 5524. Okay, they're not copying. When I look at this watch, I don't necessarily see. You got a different handset. You have a different style of hands. Yes, that's Arabic numerals. That's common, but it's not exactly the same configuration. When I look at the Patek 5522, it is pretty darn close to what the original Calatrava looked like. Pull up the 5522 here. This looks a lot closer to the reference 96 version. And that's what I'm trying to tell people is it's not a copy of anything but itself, or a historical Patek reference, which is the 96. That's why it's called the 5522 Calatrava pilot's watch, because it's referring to the original piece or the design piece that it was inspired from that early 96. Okay. So I'm just going to move it along here a bit, just from this, because this was kind of the last one on this one. Going into the comment from Azza. Azza was saying that, hey, look, like, I like it, but it's just way too small, right? 31 mils is way too small. So Patek Philippe addressed that by creating the reference 570, which is a oversized watch. So they even write it here in the article. As perfectly proportionate as reference 96 was, it had one fatal flaw. Its case size at 31 millimeters. It was diminutive, to say the least. And although admittedly small cases were much more common back then, 31 millimeters was still considered quite small. Recognizing this, Patek Philippe came out with a Calatrava reference 565 and 570 in 1938. Okay, so this is in the 30s still. Identical to the reference 96. Essentially, it was an oversized at a 35.5 mil case or a 36 mil case. So we're seeing kind of a 36 mil size come into fruition in the late 1930s. Okay, so 36 mils is a modern size today. It's still kind of considered small today, but it is still a modern men's size. They still make modern men's watches in 36 mil. And this is what they were creating in the 1930s. So even then, they understood that it was a small size, but they also had a market that wanted a bit bigger watches. So
I'd almost call it unisexual by today's standards.
Yeah, it could be. Right, women are wearing a lot larger watches, but that's the thing, Clyde. It's all it's fashion, right? Big watches. Can you say that they're going to be in fashion in 20 years? I don't know. Right?
No, and initially though, a lot of times, the thing that what you're also overlooking at the time, small watches were more of a show off because it took a lot more skill to fit that timepiece to shrink everything down into a smaller case and a smaller movement.
That's a that's a great point, Clyde. Because that is exactly it. Watchmakers were all about thin watches, smaller watches, miniaturizing watchmaking because it was more difficult. It would show the skill of the watchmaker to do that. That's why they still chase this dream, Clyde. There's still watchmakers like Piaget that still chase the thinnest watch, thinnest movement and stuff like that. But it is kind of a lost thing in today's market because it's all about bigger is better.
Hey, did that other watch have like a radium lume?
Mine is over 100 years later, and it's still I don't carry that fucker in my front pocket. I'll put it that way.
Rich Mitch, £2 to kick Eddie and read my previous super chat. I did read your previous super chat when it came up. I come here to learn from Guru Philippe. Look, Rich Mitch, I don't kick people for money. Fetty wants to leave, on his own behalf. That's cool, but I don't do that. People want to hop on. They want to hop on. They want to chill and talk. I don't do that for money. So no, we're not gonna kick Eddie off. Eddie's gonna show us all the Garmin watches he's got.
It's not a Garmin. This is, man. You know what sucks about this watch, man? I bought it. It was cool, but we're in America. You can't. This watch is like the app doesn't work because it's Huawei, man. Huawei's got that ban, so it's like stuck with it's only got like a couple faces that it came with from the factory, and you can't change them because the app doesn't connect to the server in China.
I'm gonna rabbit hole a bit here for you, Eddie, just because you're on the panel, right? We're gonna talk about a Russian brand, Konstantin Chaikin, who created, or I think is now considered
the clown watch.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to necessarily talk about the clown watch. We're going to talk about the ultra thin watch that they created, the Chaikin Thin King. Okay, so yes, it does have the clown design from Chaikin that you can identify here, but look how thin this watch is. That's
pretty cool. How much is it? That's the Ferrari one?
No. This is called the Thin King. It's 1.6 millimeters, and it's a prototype, so it hasn't been released yet.
I like it.
Yeah, it's there are watchmakers that chase this dream. And
do you like thin watches?
Watch Reporter, you got to keep it fucking PG here. Don't fuck around.
Hey, I don't like the band. You see the band that's on there? You see those?
Why am I banned from the Archie channel?
You're not. You can type in the chat. What do you mean? Type with Watch Reporter in the chat. You're not banned.
Oh yeah, how come I was banned? I came on the show.
Well,
Archie keeps banning me. Why is that? I just want to talk about the truth.
Because you pissed them off. Truth. Watch Reporter, I always call him out on how much he hates your 3940. I'm like, Archie, you love that watch. Like, why are you hating on this watch? Like, you love that watch. I know you love that watch. He's just pissy, man. You know how he is.
Good.
Hey, Patel, you see the band?
Clive actually subscribed to the Watch Reporter channel the other day. We saw.
Did you, Clyde?
Yeah, I did. I actually mentioned that.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
Clive built up his watch collection by, he had a lot of, he's a big lawyer in Oklahoma, and he was basically paid by clients to pay off the judge a couple times, right? On some big murder cases, they gave him like $100,000 to give the judge, to fix the case, and he kept the money. The guys ended up on death row, and that's how Clive ended up with his, really good collection.
All right, Watch Collector, that's it. All right, we're gonna be Watch Collector now. I told Watch Collector we need a fucking behavior, and he's not gonna fucking behave. So it is what it is.
I like the way he's calling me a Klansman the other night. Like,
Yeah. It's we got urinator here who says I think he means the watch reporter is here to call you clowns out, then ban you on his channel. And urinator is saying Clyde's Robin judges. All right, so back to the Chaikin watch here, Eddie. It is a ultra thin piece made by Chaikin. Again, it's something that watchmakers are not really pursuing anymore because bigger is better, right? They're making big movements. Collectors want movements that fit the watches, so that inherently means the movements have to get bigger in diameter. And so it's not. It's a bit different than like it was, Clyde.
I also think that has something to do with durability. I think a small watch, a thin watch, the more possibility of it getting injured, like or the movement getting damaged by a sudden shock.
Yeah, but I even call that out, right? Like when you're buying a watch like this, you're not fucking gardening it with it. You're not playing tennis with it. Like you're putting this on the wrist in your house and walking around like your house in your t-shirt and shorts, and then you put it back in the box. You know what I mean? Like you're not like as much as people talk about robustness and all that shit. Like unless you're and honestly, Clyde, how many of the guys around even use their like? I mean, I've heard how many times. Oh, I don't take my submariner in the water. Right?
Like, watch collectors.
You know what the problem with this watch is, man? The price, man. That's the price. How much is that watch? It's ridiculous. It's probably ridiculously expensive.
Well, Eddie, the purpose of this is meant more for like to show like because what Chaikin does, what's interesting about him is he uses ETA movements, Eddie, and then he slaps on modules and he modifies those movements to create his Joker watch and other pieces, right? So it's a really cool thing, and the fact that he creates something like this ultra thin I think he's trying to step up to show that he's a serious watchmaker.
No, yeah, that's an interesting watch. I like it. I think it's interesting.
Go ahead, Clyde. Sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, I just think it's an era like Clyde was mentioning that is just it's a bygone era that doesn't exist as much anymore. So back to kind of the Calatrava here, guys. So this was the 570 reference in 36 mil, so an oversized model. And as we kind of go along, I'm going to go to the 2526. So this is one of the first, if not the first, automatic Patek Philippe watch. Calatrava, you guys are now going to kind of see a bit more similarity to Archie's 5107 pieces. We're getting a little bit more modern now in these pieces. I think there's a shot here with the movement. Let me just see here.
Okay, go back to that last one. See that one when I see. There is one thing I will see about the Calatrava. When it comes to like a classic dress piece, I think the Calatrava just nails everything.
And this is an interesting look at this movement, even Clyde, because if you see on the movement, typically on the gold rotor, you'll usually find in the modern era of Calatravas, you'll find what's called circular Côte de Genève along the big router, big rotor here. Yeah, it's you can see the Côte de Genève here, Eddie. Just the lines are not really. It's not really coming up on the screen very well, but a different.
They're like little stripes, Geneva stripes, and then they got the Côte de Genève is that perlage? Is that perlage on the rotor?
Côte de Genève is the Geneva stripes. That's what it is. It just means
Côte de Genève is that's on the actual steel right there. Yeah,
on the bridges. Yeah,
but on the rotor, that's what do you call that? That's guilloché or what?
Yeah, it looks like a guilloché pattern on the rotor, which, like I mentioned, they typically in the modern era do a circular Côte de Genève. So you'll see kind of circular lines. Let me pull up let me show you what I mean here, Eddie.
I know. I had a watch like that. They got like it's like metal, and what they do is they have a machine that just goes and like takes a little bit, like it spins, and then they move it like back and forth, and it makes the stripes. Côte d'Azur, Côte de Genève.
What are your other watches made of? Jello?
What?
You said I got this watch. It's made of metal. It's like, well, what are the other watches made of? Jello?
No, they got different materials, man. They got carbon. They make some shit out of carbon. And then,
all right,
they make movements out of carbon, man. They have some. They've done it, man. They got silicone, like those springs, man. The fucking.
That's what they make fake boobies out of, right?
Woo!
No, man, they use it for the springs, for the hairspring, silicone hairsprings, because it's not magnetic. It doesn't get distorted by a magnetic field. You know what happens to a watch when it goes into a magnetic field? the hairsprings, they magnetize and they stick together, so your watch starts moving real fast. It changes the beat rate, or
Well, and that's one thing people say. Hey, how come you're always wearing an Apple Watch? Guess what? I have to walk through every effing day. It's called a metal detector.
That doesn't mean anything. Metal detector it doesn't create a magnetic field that's really strong.
All right, guys, back to the topic of the Calatrava. So we walked through the previous gen 25. What's this reference number? 25 something. Hold on, 253.
I don't. The one you're
2526. 2526. Yeah, I'm going to walk into this one here, Clyde, because common misconception is, well, I mean, it's around the same time as the 3919, where you see this watch really in the 3919 configuration, the hobnail bezel.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite Calatrava right there.
Because we're walking into a more modern time, Eddie, right? So this was in the 70s. This reference 3520 comes out. Clou de Paris, hobnail bezel on the Calatrava, Roman numerals. Now, this was actually a very popular watch in the 80s in the 3919 configuration. I think it was 33 mils. Higgins, when he was starting to sell watches, he told me that this was a watch that was quite popular at the time, was considered contemporary at the time. For us today, and Thierry Stern himself had said it when he created the 5227 updated version of the automatic Calatrava, saying he looked at this watch and said, you know what, it's just not for the young man today, and we got to change it up. But at the time,
it looks really nice though. This is a beautiful watch though. Man.
Yeah, at the time, Eddie, it was considered contemporary and more of a young man's watch. Today, it's not looked at it that way because it was such a popular model at the time, and we probably see or have seen people wear this watch that now are probably elderly, and we associate it with being an old man's watch. But I agree, Eddie, it's beautiful watch.
Dude, these watches are timeless. They're like they never go out of fashion. They never go out of style. This especially the Calatrava. That's a very sophisticated watch. I mean, it's people think of it as simple, but it's not. If you look at it, it's just it's perfect. It has nothing. It's easy when you look at it. You could tell the time real quick. There's no confusion.
Well, that's the beauty of it, Eddie. That was the whole purpose. The simplicity is where people find it boring. But in the simplicity, what you just described is the true purpose of, and the whole Bauhaus design, right?
You take a look at it right away, you know what time it is. You don't have to get some watches, they got like a busy dial. You're like looking at it, you're trying to figure out.
But you see the point, Eddie, the form following the function, right?
Yeah,
the function is to tell the time in a very simple and accurate way. Okay. The form is how they deliver that.
This beautiful watch. This watch is. I like this case. I like that style. The hobnail style. It's just perfect. I love it, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's good for
bezels. If I had money, I would buy this watch. Definitely, man. I really like this. This particular. This is like one of my favorite Pateks.
We're also entering an era, guys, Clyde and Eddie, on when in the 80s, Patek Philippe is speaking to a marketing agency to come out with a new campaign to kind of, we're walking into an era where wristwatches are kind of getting a resurgence. Quartz Crisis is in the mix, and a lot of these watchmakers are trying to kind of rebrand themselves to sell mechanical watches. And they come out with the slogan, "You never own a Patek Philippe, you merely hold on to it for the next generation." That slogan came out in this era of the end of the Quartz Crisis, the start of kind of the resurgence of mechanical watches. And it is such a powerful message that we overlook today. We kind of either joke about it today or overlook that slogan. But that slogan, I really wish Higgins was on the panel because he could give actual information of when he was selling watches in the 80s on how much he had to sell that dream. Because, Clyde, that's what it was about, is it was moving away from selling that these are accurate, super accurate watches because they couldn't compete with quartz to this is now an heirloom art piece, right?
Well, and you have to mention that saying was modified by Archie Luxury early in the 21st century by saying that you never truly own a Patek Philippe. You're merely looking after it for your next ex-wife's future divorce.
Or you're merely looking after it for Dave the Super Collector or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was a slogan that was shifting the watch market into really resurging the mechanical watch as a romantic, a romantic piece, an art piece, a jewelry piece, an heirloom piece, right? So that is how we're shifting right now. And this Calatrava was at the forefront of that movement. Okay, so when we talk about oh, this is a boring watch, or oh, you know, this is this watch is full of so much history.
It's not
and
boring at all.
Yeah, but
It's beautiful.
It's just Eddie. Nobody knows this, right? People don't talk about this.
It's beautiful though. It's like a work. It's like, you know, you can a beautiful thing. You never get. You know, you could wear that watch. That'd be your only watch, and it would be beautiful all the time. You would never have to replace it because it was just elegant and prestige and everything. You know, it's got everything that you need.
Mm.
So Yiddish Gambino is saying the 6119G.
That's the one I love that fucking style, man.
Yeah, he's saying the 6119G, which is the white gold one. I have the rose gold one here on the screen. Is the perfect dress watch. Manual wine.
I love that watch, man. If I had money, I would. I don't have money to buy this watch, but man, if I had it, man, shit.
This is the modern interpretation.
I really love that watch.
Yeah, man. This is the modern interpretation of the watch that I showed on the screen. Hobnail bezel. Obviously, Patek has, you know, they made it a bit of an evolution. You know, the one I have in the thumbnail was my 519.
It doesn't need the second hand. You don't need seconds. We just need minute and an hour. That's it. You don't need the second hand. They put it just to make it like, you know,
symmetrical.
Because people want shit. They want
I mean, there's a bit more symmetry to it.
You don't need it though. You mean you just need the hours and the minutes. You don't need the second hand. You can get ready second by looking at the. You see how if you look at the original, you could tell what the seconds is at, because it moves every 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I think it moves 4 times, and it moves slowly, but you could see it moving
4 times a minute.
Yeah, 4 times a minute, exactly. 4 quarters in 1 minute.
By the way, I've got to get ready for a family function. I'll have you guys in the background.
Sounds good, Clyde. I'm gonna be wrapping up in a little bit. I wasn't gonna do a long show today, but as I mentioned, this is the 6119, as we're talking in the chat, is the modern version of the watch I had on the other screen, 3520, 3919, hobnail bezel, Clou de Paris, which again has always been perceived as a bit old manish. So the fact that Patek had created this watch, and it's actually quite popular, and I think it's. The fact that they haven't come out with a new reference 96, like they've had a reference 96 around since the 30s, but they don't have one right now. They don't have the 5196 is no longer in production. The 6119 now is in production. So I've been kind of anticipating over the last couple of years that Patek Philippe is going to come out with a 6196 without the Clou de Paris. But honestly, the fact that so many people actually love the Clou de Paris bezel on this one, for me, is is really, to me, is really interesting. And yeah, I think like Eddie said, it's very beautiful. It's very classic. And again, these are designs that have existed since the 70s, since the 80s. A lot of people walk around saying, "Oh, they're unimaginative," or this and that, completely disregarding the fact that they created watches like this in the past, that they are either taking inspiration from. And yeah, whether you call that lazy, up to you. But
look at the level. I was gonna say, look at the level of detail on all the the hour indices, right? You see how they're carved and sculpted, and if you look at it under the sun, how if it catches the sun at certain angles, they'll reflect, and you'll see how beautiful that watch is. This one doesn't have, but this one has the the case itself. If you look at it, how it looks under the sun, those little square, they're like little pyramids. If you look at it a certain way, they'll cast shadows on. You'll see. It's a beautiful piece, man. It's a beautiful piece, man.
And just to kind of highlight the difference, right? Like when people say it's kind of just boring or a copy, right? This isn't a copy.
They don't appreciate it, man.
Well, it's not a copy, right? To go from this to this is not the same. There are some designs.
It's different, but it's still beautiful. They're both beautiful. They're both, they have their own unique personalities.
Well, what they did is they're trying to keep the essence of what they created in that watch of the 3520, 3919, but also modernize it, make it more contemporary. Kind of exactly what why Yiddish Gambino thinks that this is a perfect watch, is he agrees with you, Eddie, that that previous watch is a beautiful piece. However, he also has modern contemporary tastes. He writes, it's a 39 mil size. He points it out that it's a big watch. It's not a small watch, and therefore, he does like it. He feels it's a more modern dial. He feels that the Romans may be a little antiquated for what is in fashion today, right? So you've got the Dauphine hands, and you've got the polished indices, right?
Yeah.
but you still
It's
get the classic
beautiful.
hobnail case and bezel, like hobnail Calatrava case and hobnail bezel. Like he's got it spot on in the sense that they've made a very contemporary version of a classic, of a hit.
You have one of these? You have one of these?
I don't have this one. So if you look at the thumbnail of the show today, that is my 5196 or my reference 96, modern version of the reference 96 in white gold with a silver dial. That's why I put it up. That's why I use that thumbnail for today, because we are talking Calatravas.
I like that watch, man. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah, a lineup that doesn't get a lot of love. So now we're getting into like the modern era of Calatravas. Watch Nicholas in the chat said he likes the modern Calatrava. So I'm going to take you guys through the men's section of the modern Calatrava, not really the ladies stuff. There's only a few in unisex right here. Let's start off, Eddie, by looking at the 6007. Why don't you tell me, Eddie, like, what do you think of this watch? You know, I'm going to put the video up on the screen. What do you love about it? What do you hate about it?
It looks like it's something commemorates like racing heritage or something. Because you see how it's got like a racing type flag.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's Patek's attempt to make it a Calatrava that, you know, again, all the watches we showed today on the show,
it's pretty too, man.
Are very yeah, but Eddie, they're very simple. They're very kind of to the
what
point.
do you need? And watches are supposed to be simple. You're supposed to. It's an instrument, you know.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. The beef that people have with this watch, called the AutoZone, is it's taking away from the essence of the Calatrava. The Calatrava is supposed to be this Bauhaus design simple watch, as you described a few minutes ago, Eddie. You're like, dude, you can literally just read the time. It's so easy. Right, that's the purpose of
you
it.
just glance at a glance, you can tell what time it is, and that's it.
This is why
that's a nice watch too. This is a beautiful watch. Not everybody might like it, but I like it. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's their attempt to find a crowd that's looking to move from Rolex that just does not have the palate or the interest for the simple dress watch, the simple Bauhaus design Calatrava. They just don't see it. They don't understand it. They don't want it for whatever reason. And so Patek is like, you know what? We're going to make a sportier Calatrava to kind of like give them what they want, but also keep a bit of it. Look, it just came out as I wouldn't say a complete fumble, but not an instant classic here. Not the most favorite watch of everybody. Some people love it. Like, I like this watch.
It's beautiful, man. Every watch Patek makes is beautiful.
Yeah, I know Hop on Smash.
They don't make garbage. I've never seen a garbage Patek.
But here we go, Eddie. This to me is them hitting it fucking out of the park when it comes to
oh man,
keeping the Bauhaus design, keeping a, you know, like you said, a very legible.
I like that dial. It's like some kind of what do you call that dial? It's got some kind of texture on it or something.
Yeah, Archie calls it the bitumen dial. Higgins calls it the skateboard dial.
Why do they call that?
It's just a texture, right? It's got an asphalt kind of style texture to it. Very, very cool. It's a cool dial. But it is a field. It's kind of got that field watch vibe that, you know, as we kind of talked about, is historic to Patek Philippe. It's not like Patek Philippe didn't do field watches. They did, you know, in the Calatrava range. So they're taking that inspiration of a vintage field watch, but also making it a bit more modern. Like Eddie said, you know, they've got a bit of a wilder dial to it. It's got faux patina on it, or faux tina on it, that either you love it or you hate it. Yeah, you can love it or hate it.
You see the numbers. They got the little, like, you see they're like filled with this like they kind of beveled inside. You see, like, and they're filled with the lume. I bet if you look on the sun, like, you catch the light a certain way, you can see all, you know, they light up all the, like, you see like the reflection on the numbers and stuff. Man, that's fucking.
No, it's nice, man. Obviously,
yeah, it's really fucking. If I had money, man, I don't got money to buy this fucking watch.
This is a very expensive watch. These are come down into the mid 30s. I mean, 30 mid 30s, right? That's a car for people.
If I had money, man, I would buy, definitely. I love beautiful things, man. You know.
Yeah, and I think that's what this brand is.
I just don't see. I can't justify spending that kind of money on a watch right now, man. You know,
Eddie, look, I was at that point in my life too, man. Like, I can remember a time when I sat there thinking, like, who the hell is spending this kind of money on these watches? And I didn't understand it. This is why I'm doing this live stream for you guys, is to kind of show, like, you know, don't dismiss stuff that you don't understand. Actually learn about this stuff, because
I know. I love.
I'm not talking about Eddie. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the viewers. Okay, I'm talking to the viewers here.
They don't appreciate stuff. Some people they think, oh man, you know, they want to roll. They think when you tell them a luxury watch, they right away pops into mind Rolex. Rolex is like entry level shit.
Because Eddie, it's the shortest point from A to B. That's why they do it. right? You go on the forum, you say, what Rolex should I buy? And it's going to be the same ones over and over again. Shortest point from A to B. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. People are new to the hobby. They got to start somewhere, right? But what I'm telling you is, if you're a true watch enthusiast, if you're a true watch collector, you want to go down the rabbit hole. I'm not saying you have to do it with Patek Philippe, but do it with a brand, or do it with an avenue that interests you. We had Clyde, the rancher, on a few minutes ago. He's gone down the rabbit hole of vintage Flieger watches, and he knows that shit better than anybody. And around at least our parts of YouTube, he knows it better than anybody. And I can appreciate that about his collecting, because he found something he loved and he went down that path. For me, Eddie, what always was the mystique for me was, I was like everybody else. I was like, I don't understand the Calatrava. Like, why? It's too like, why? Why is this the Grand Classic? Why is
it's a classic one? It's beautiful. It's like there's nothing, you don't need any, like the way they designed it, they really thought about it. These guys are the best.
I just never got it, dude, until I actually went into the history and I understood like how much this, like how difficult this watch was to create.
It's a special watch, man. Dude, Calatrava is a very special watch.
Think about it, Eddie. You buy a company that's like literally in the shitter, that used to sell to the ultra rich, but now is in the shitter. In the Great Depression, and they have to create something that saves the company, right? You talk about the AP Royal Oak saving, AP in the 70s. I mean, that was a time when, I mean, the Swiss watch industry wasn't completely down and out, right? Like, we're talking in the Great Depression when, like, some of these high-end brands, like watches, were a luxury item to a lot of people, and you've got all these rich people that are just fucking losing all their money, and it's just causing worldwide fucking pandemonium. And so they come out with this watch called the Calatrava, the Reference 96, that it becomes a hit. And the whole point of this, Eddie, which is so funny because today the mass market doesn't see this watch this way. This was made to open up the doors to more clients to the brand. Still very wealthy clients. I'm not going to deny that, but it was made to open the brand up to others. And that's what it did. It was a very popular watch. It still is a popular watch today. Just a very misunderstood watch. I would love to do another.
It's not about the money. Look, it's not about the money. Like, people think, like, man, they like, oh man, I'm gonna buy this watch. It's gonna, in like 20 years I could sell it, and that's not what, like, a real collector won't think like that. A collector buys a watch to keep for a lifetime, man. You enjoy that. You don't care about them. You want to have a beautiful. It's like art, man. You don't buy. Some people buy art to sell it, but some people buy art because they appreciate it.
Absolutely,
they want to sit there and look at it. Like, I enjoy this watch. Would be fucking beautiful to have,
I think that's what it is, right? I think that's what, we had this debate, Eddie, yesterday around independent brands, right? Higgins came on the show and said, well, all these independent brands are kicking, Vacheron and Patek and AP's ass, right? And I said, well,
you can't. It's art, man. These watches will always be in demand because people that appreciate beautiful things will always want, you can't replicate this kind of stuff. You can copy it, sure, but it's not going to be the original.
Eddie, I alluded it to the fact that you're comparing apples to oranges, right? Like, if you think of the 1980s, Eddie, right? Like the Lamborghini and the Ferraris were the supercars of the era, right? Those were the hypercars. The Koenigsegg's, the Paganis, they didn't exist back then.
Right.
The hypercars,
right.
And so that is kind of the comparison between a Reshepia, a Dufour, a Carré-Voudalin into a Patek Philippe, right? You're talking about a hypercar versus a supercar, right? Patek Philippe is meant to be a very, very high-end, high luxury.
The original, man, originality.
It's supposed to be a full package, Eddie. It's supposed to be a full package, right? In a full package, you can't always get what you want, right? You don't get everything, but you get a very, very high standard on most stuff, right? Whether that's finishing, whether that's materials, whether that's accuracy. I mean, Patek Philippe's, guys, they're no fucking slouch.
Look
like
at
Rolex,
the mechanism on this watch, man. That's.
Well, let me tell you, Eddie, to all the Rolex fans out there, superlative chronometer is -2 +2 a day. The Patek Philippe seal that's in this watch certifies this watch, and the dress watch, like Eddie said, a beautiful decorated art movement is guaranteed to -3 +2 per day. So very, very, very close.
These kind of watches, they're always gonna have. You can't, the synchronicity in a mechanical machine. You can't achieve.
But the point is, Eddie, is you're getting the full package. You're getting
right, but you can't achieve. You got to understand, like, these types of watches, they're gonna have deviation from. They're not gonna be accurate 100%. You can't. There's no way.
No,
because there's always gonna be any kind of system that relies on.
No, but I mean, look, Eddie, -2 +2, -3 +2. Like, if you got a watch in that range, it's the most accurate you're going to need. You don't
It's
need
accurate, definitely. They probably have, they study these things. There's components in there that compensate for like temperature. They'll expand. There's special metal that they use, that the alloy that is thermally like what do you call that, stable. So it's like when it gets real hot, it doesn't expand too much, so that it starts to create more friction through the joule, and then slow down the oscillation. They know about this stuff, but like these aren't tourbillons. This is not a quartz piece. You're buying this not because of accuracy, man. Even though it is accurate, you're buying this watch because it's a fucking work of art, man.
Well, it's everything, right? It's not just a work of art. It's a work of art. It's a very accurate piece. It's a functional watch. It's a watch
Yeah,
you
it's a
can wear.
machine, man. It's a fully
I mean,
operational machine watch. It's a watch, man. It's top of
Ter-
the line, the best you can fucking get.
Terry Stern says that he doesn't mind if people buy his watches for investment, but he said, "Look, all I want is for you to wear the watch. Like you want to buy it because it goes up in value, no problem. But wear the fucking watch. What I don't want to see
Love
is
it.
people buying for an investment and putting it in the safe." He's like, "I make watches to be worn. That's why I make watches." And so again, this is a usable
Yeah.
watch. It's a very accurate watch. It's an art piece like you described. And it's got the brand recognition. It's got a brand that has very strong brand presence, where it's going to elude that if you're wearing a Patek Philippe on the wrist, the stereotype would be either you're very wealthy, or you have good taste, or you're a watch enthusiast that likes the finer end of watches. Whatever it may allude to other people, it has it. Now, what you lack in the other independents, Reshepi, Voutilainen, you wear a Voutilainen. Watch Nicholas is in the chat. Him and I are big fans of Kerry Voutilainen's work. Voutilainen, you wear a Voutilainen, doesn't have brand recognition, won't likely be as accurate as a Patek Philippe, will have a higher level of art to it, because that's the purpose of it, is a pure art piece, and a handmade, crafted art piece. That's what people are buying. They're buying a bespoke piece, most likely. It doesn't, if they're buying certain bespoke pieces, but if you're buying a general lineup from the brand as well, you're buying a very limited, a very exclusive art piece. That's what you're buying. You're not buying the full package, and that's why I say you're comparing apples to oranges, and it's a completely different sphere to be talking about. When we talk Holy Trinity, we're talking about.
I want to tell you something. The problem with this watch, I mean, it's a beautiful watch. The problem with it is people, when they buy this watch, they don't wear them because they're scared, because the world. You see what's going on in the world right now, man. People who would buy this watch would be maybe leaders of industry and stuff, like people that work in, like they make not enough money to afford something like that. You have to be some kind of like CEO of a company, or upper management.
Oh, I asked Higgins this question. It's a good point.
The demographics that would wear, and some people, then where would you wear this? You have to be like, you go to parties.
Eddie, it's not even the demographic. Let me bring up what you just said. So, at one time, Eddie, there was only the Calatrava, the 3919, and then there was the 3940. You had that guy who came on earlier, the Watch Reporter. He owns one of those 3940 perpetual calendars. Okay, the price difference at the time, and this is in the 80s, right? I'm going to use US dollars, $9,000 for a 3919 Calatrava, and 45,000 for a perpetual calendar. Okay, huge difference. And I asked Higgins. I said, Higgins, you used to work at a AD for Patek Philippe. What was the buyer like? Were they different? Were they the same? And he said, Tan, they're completely different buyers. The buyer that bought the 3919, yeah, wealthy guy, probably is gotten a milestone in his life. He's buying a really, really nice piece for himself. He said that guy who's coming in for that 3940 perpetual calendar, he's like what you described. He's like titan of industry, very well-known person in the city, just a completely different buyer. So even within Patek's range, you've got, just average, normal people, normal guys that are stretching, that really want to watch. Let
me tell you something. These aren't like people that are just. This is not for the entry level. This is not an entry level. This is a person that has already watched already has Pateks, and they would buy this thing because they love these kind of watches. They wouldn't be the first time watch buyer to buy this. You know what I mean? This is not like somebody that never had a Patek, and this is the first Patek they're gonna get. This is not that type. This is not this kind of watch. This is not the watch for those kind of people.
Let me dissect this comment from Yiddish Gambito, because it's a great comment, Yiddish Gambito. I appreciate you being in the chat. Yiddish Gambito always gives out some pretty nice and interesting comments that drive the topics here. So he says 90% of paddock references drop like a rock in secondary value. That's actually no different than most watches. Other than hyper complications and stupid sport pieces, the others crash by 50%, and it's awesome for us collectors. It's a great point here. Yiddish Gambino is absolutely right. Most Patek Philippe's do drop from retail. So whenever a new reference comes out, especially a dress watch, dress pieces, entry level dress pieces, like, and the same thing happened with the Calatrava I showed before, the AutoZone. That actually was going up in price for a while. I think David SW was selling one for like 50 grand or something. But then they drop, and even this watch was hyped at a point and it dropped. The best advice I would give you is buy these on the secondary market. Let those ultra rich people take the depreciation hit if you want to get a deal, and then buy it on the secondary if you're just seeking these watches. I would not personally buy these at retail because of the same reasons. Why would I throw money away, right? Like that 30% could be another Rolex, right? Like I'm a value shopper too, and so yeah, it's a great point, Yiddish Gambino. But yeah, they do offer a great buy on the secondary market. There's some gems to be had that people forget about, that I bring up, every once in a while. That 3940, if you scroll back, Watch Reporter, Watch Nicholas, or anybody in the chat, if you scroll back to 2018, 2019, I was the only one fucking spruiking that 3940 when Archie was sitting in there on the panel with me, or on the panel when I was super chatting, saying, nah, Tan. I said, Archie, like that 3940 is annual calendar money. Why would you not buy? Nah, Tan, I want to buy the modern annual calendar. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is the most iconic perpetual. Philippe Stern, the CEO himself, wore this watch. Like that was his watch. Like how the heck is this not going to be an icon and not go up in value? And Eddie, that's exactly what happened. From mid 30s, that watch is shot up into 50, 60, 70, $80,000 range right now. Like, so I believe that there are other gems that are out there. I talked about some yesterday of watches that have huge potential to go up in value just because they're overlooked. Lange Datograph Gen 1 Platinum is selling for high 50s, low 60s. That watch, as much as like everybody spruiks it on YouTube, if that's so iconic, right, it should not be selling at such a cheap price. That watch should be going up, and I truly believe that watch will go up from a collectability perspective as Lange continues its run of being establishing itself and continuing its establishment of being a high-end watchmaker. I'm going to go through a few more here, Eddie, before I wrap. So this is the 5226 we've had on the screen here for a little bit. I showed the AutoZone. Let's go into the more traditional Calatrava. So this is the modern version of one of those automatics I showed. Let's show the rose gold version here. So good friend of the channel, the Captain. I don't know if Captain's listening. He sometimes listens, sometimes doesn't. But shout out to Captain. Captain owns one of these watches, the 5227. So Eddie, that Calatrava that we saw earlier with the hobnail bezel, okay? Thierry Stern in about, I think it was like 2013 is when this watch came out. Thierry Stern was designed. So all the naysayers that are complaining about the Cubitus, right, often forget that Thierry Stern actually also designed this watch. He designed the 5227, and he basically said that old hobnail bezel watch is not contemporary. Most young men or younger men that I want to attract with this watch into the brand just won't see that as contemporary. So he made this watch, the 5227, simple dress watch. So he wanted to keep that simple Bauhaus kind of design or idea of the Calatrava alive by making it very simple but usable, but also increasing the size to 39 millimeters, scalloping the case where it's got a really nice texture, a really nice design on the scallops on the side of the case. And it's got the officer style, and I'll show a couple of pictures. The officer styles case back, which opens up to show the movement here. So I'm gonna put a couple
see photos. These are watches for people that love watch because they have the movement is exhibition. That's why only somebody that who could appreciate that, you know what I mean, would want the movement, would want to see the movement.
Absolutely. We got
somebody that doesn't have no idea what maybe a doctor would be interested in something like this. Because I like to look at the movements. I got some watches that like you can see them. I'll show you. I'll show you.
All right. We got a super chat here from Sam Davidson, 10 British pounds. Great show, 10. I appreciate that, Sam. Appreciate you joining us, checking us out.
Advanced watch, but you can see the movement. It's pretty cool.
All we see is a black screen, Eddie. Show us this. Show me, man.
This is
What
like
kind of bullshit is this, man?
it's a cheap shit bullshit, but it's cool though, you know. See, you could see them. You could see all the wheels and the how this thing works. There's a spring, the main spring. You can see it's like you can see it's like a skeleton. You can see right through the.
Absolutely. This is a good comment from Watch Nicholas. So Watch Nicholas asks, doesn't Archie's have crown guards? He has very similar paddock. He did. So when we talked about the old 5 identical Pateks, that was the 5127. That's the previous generation of this one, which had crown guards, as well as the 5107, which is a previous generation of that, which also had crown guards. So Patek Philippe Eddie in the 90s, late 90s, into the 2000s were again, more of the sport craze was happening in watch collecting, and so they wanted to make their Calatravas a bit more sporty. So what they did, and not only the Calatravas, they did it with the World Time and a couple other pieces, was put crown guards. I'll show what Watch Nicholas means here. Patek 5107. Well, I'm sure I can find an Archie picture because that's one of his most famous watches. But yeah, here we go. Here's an Archie photo from Watch Pro. Hello, Patek punters. AC3. So what Watch Nicholas is talking about is right here on the Calatrava. You can see the crown guards on here, which you don't see in the 5227. So yes, Watch Nick, they did change it in this model. Thierry Stern removed the crown guards because, again, probably wasn't contemporary in the year 2013. So remove that. You can see the scallop lugs here, which I think is a very beautiful addition to the case. On that. And then when we get here, we got an officer style case back. So you can engrave this solid gold. So you're not losing any of the gold, Eddie. Like, with a sapphire case back, you got no gold. In my perpetual calendar, it has a sapphire case back, but also they give you an additional gold case back as well. They don't skimp you on the gold. So in this one, you don't get skimped on the gold. You get a gold case back, but it's officer style. So it actually opens up. It's got a hinge. You can see the hinge, and the hinge opens up. I don't know if there's a shot of the movement. But I'll see if there is in the photo.
Is it screw down crown or no?
These ones, I believe, were pushing crowns. I don't believe they're screwed down. I don't remember on these ones. Could be. I don't think these are screwed down, but I think they're pushing because these are 30 mil water resistant watches. So, it's case. Now, some people prefer the dress watch without the crown guards. Some people prefer it with the crown guards. Look, it's subjective. Even the crown guards themselves, guys, like those could become collectible at some point. I really like them. I know Brian Govberg likes them. Him and I have talked a lot about them, and offline about that piece. I haven't really got Tim Mosso's take on it. I'm going to probably talk to him just to see what he thinks about crown guards on Patek Philippe's. But yeah, I think it's cool. We got a super chat here from Watch Nicholas. Red super chat and 99 cents. Thank you so much. Super sticker. It's a dancing lemon. Watch Nicholas. Appreciate that. And then Yiddish Gambino says crown guards on a lady size Patek. Yeah. I mean, I've owned a 5127 Yiddish Gambino. That's a 37 mil. It doesn't fit that small. I don't think it's a small piece. I think
they put the crown guard just for a look because I mean, you got a Patek, you're gonna be careful with it. Obviously, you're not gonna.
Absolutely.
But so, like with the crown, without the crown guards, you can damage the. If you hit the crown with force, you could break the crown stem or the crown off. You break the crown off the crown stem.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta be careful.
I'm rounding out 2 hours here, Eddie. Did you want to continue the stream? I can keep it online, and because there's the fans in the chatter, we got 50 people there looking to see you do a stream here, Eddie.
I don't have my computer on. Like I'm on my phone.
Yeah, you can keep the phone on. I can keep the stream going online.
Can you show that watch before you go? That one, it's a Panerai with the E-Lux or something like that with the lights.
Panerai E-Lux.
It just came out like recently, a few weeks ago or something.
It's a Lab ID E-Lux.
That's it. What do you think? They're expensive, man.
97,800.
It's ridiculous for a Panerai. But
what's in this E-Lux? There's submersible E-Lux.
It lights up. They got electric lights, but they're powered by their special generator, and so you press the button and it lights up like that for it's not like simple LEDs. They're kind of they special fiber optic so they can light up from underneath somehow. But they use, instead of batteries, they use a generator that you wind the crown, and I guess it's that little power reserve indicator that tells you how much power the lights have. So it'll drain off, but it won't drain all the juice from the watch. You know what I'm saying? So you could keep, if you like, the spring, it won't take all the power from the spring.
Yeah, it says mechanically illuminated LED hour markers powered by a micro generator. Interesting.
Yeah. So what you do is when you can, let's say the lights go out, you just wind up the watch through the crown, and then it'll wind the generator as well. But you have it has a power reserve for the light on the bottom, so it'll show you basically the amount of energy that's left for the lights to light. So once let's say the lights turn off, you can wind it back up, and then it's pretty cool though.
Yeah, man. All right, Eddie, I'm gonna leave. I'll let you. You can use your phone and just chat with the group, and I'll end the stream whenever you want to. But I'll leave you
on here, man. Who's gonna?
You got 50, dude. You got 50 people watching that want to hear from you. So I'll drop here, guys. We're gonna let Eddie run the show here. And,
hey, man. I hope you have a good holiday, man. You're a nice
man.
guy. I always liked you, man. Sometimes I talk a lot of shit, but I'm,
Eddie, look, they've been trying to kick you for money.
I'm not for real, man.
Eddie, they've been trying to kick you for money, so you're still on. Eddie's gonna run the show, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Peace out.
Okay, man. What's up, man? What's up, guys? Where's Archie at? Is he sleeping or what? Anybody want to jump on and talk or what? Say something to me. Let me see. I don't know. I can't see the chat. Or let me see. Yeah, I can't really see the chat, man, because I'm on my phone. What are you guys on, man? Those watches are nice. That Calatrava is a beautiful watch. I told Archie, man, I said I don't know why he got that World Time one. I mean, I don't know. I guess people, you like something you wanted, you can you can get it. But I think just a classy watch like the Calatrava, that's fucking, that's very, very classy and sophisticated. You don't need to show off with, oh man, look at me, I got a fucking Rolex and all this other shit, man, or some expensive AP, whatever, man. The Calatrava itself is a Patek. It's one of their most beautiful watches they ever designed, and you can you walk around, somebody thinks they don't know what the people who know watches will recognize it, right? Like the real collectors will recognize it, like, hey, that's a beautiful Patek. But just average guys, they think it's just some shit watch. They don't know what it is. They think it's tell prisons what kind of oh man, you want to know what happened to me, man? I got in trouble in prison. I had my friend, so I was fucking that was my hustle inside prison. I hacked the printer, man. The printing machine, the copy machine. It's also a print. Is they used to use copy cards to basically make copies, right? So they had to buy those on commissary and shit, right? So but the fucking idiots, they didn't program the fucking machine. So I was able to go to the copy machine, and had screen the menu. I start fucking going into the menu, into the administrator fucking menu, and then the administrator password was admin, just like when it comes from a factory, and nobody fucking changed it, right? So you go into the fucking administrator console, and then you go into the external charge unit management. That's the card reader. You go to off, you switch it off, and then save. And when you do that, the machine is now operating without the card, without the charge card, and it just fucking prints copies for free. So I figured that. So then these guys there, they need legal copies and shit like that. I said, look, man, just buy me some food from the commissary, and I'll fucking, I'll give you unlimited. You can print as long as you want. I don't give a fuck, man. You know what I'm saying? So they're like, okay, fuck it. So they don't have to buy one copy card is $6, and you had to. It's fucking. They only give you it's 10 cents a copy, so you only get 6. What do you call it? 60 copies or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, fuck that, man. You copy unlimited shit. You know what I'm saying? You can copy unlimited shit. I don't give a fuck, man. Just buy me something to eat, buy me some pops, whatever, man. And then these guys, I found these one guys, his name was Carolina, and he's like, hey man, you know, like they were copying fucking they were doing like they're making like these like cards. They were making like these cards for like sport betting, for betting and shit. And then they used to use, you know, the currency in prison is stamps, postage stamps. So man, I'm like, you know, I told you know, this guy who used to work for Carolina, and he used to do like copies for him and shit. Like he used to go print those cards out. And then I caught him up at the printer. I said, hey man. He's like, what's up? He was a cool guy. I was like, hey, hey, I'm like, I can save you some money. He's like, what do you mean? I said, watch this. I go up to the printer, I do my thing, and fucking, you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden the printer is printing shit for free, man. He's like, man. He's like, and then, you know, after I had to do the sequence to do that shit, right? So then I didn't show him the password. I changed the password. I made a different password, so that way I created like 2 more accounts on there. So like, you know, all you had to do was type in like a couple of things, and then it would like access that account. So that would automatically, you have to do the sequence to go into the administrator console and disable the external charge unit management, the fucking card reader. But then when you're done, you have to go and do that. You have to re-enable it and shit. So I had to show him how to. So look, so like he goes to Carolina and tells him that shit, right? And Carolina's like, man, while I'm walking in the hallway and shit at this one fucking, you know, in the unit, and Carolina's like, hey man, he comes and puts his arm around me. He's like, what's up, man? He's like, man, he's like, it's like, man, this is my new friend. He's like, this is my homie, man. This is my friend, man. I was like, yeah, what's up, man? He's like, can you do me a favor, man? I said, what's that? He's like, man, I'll pay you. I'll take care of you and shit, man. I'll fucking buy you food, whatever the fuck you want, whatever. You know what I'm saying? We'll be like home. We'll be friends and stuff. I said, no problem, man. He's like, can you give me access to he's like, show me how to do that shit. So you know what I'm saying? And I'll pay you every week. We'll take care of you, we'll feed you and shit. You'll be friends with us. I'm like, all right, no problem, man. And fucking, I showed him. I showed him exactly the sequence, and then he sent these guys out there to fucking make copies and all kinds of shit, man. I didn't give a fuck. It's not my printer, man. They took care of me in there, man. They were fucking, you know, we was always hanging out. Then they moved me to that unit. I was in the room with my friend that was in here from Chicago, man. We're, you know, 424. That's Chicago in the feds, man. You know, that's designation number. That's 424. That's for Chicago. So anybody that has anybody's like number is 424. They're from Chicago, man. You know, there was a couple guys, and they're like, yeah, man, we're in a gang, man. We're in a gang, man. Anyways. So then there was some interesting people, man, in there. There was a guy, he was like this one con artist, man. He's like an old man. He used to own a sport memorabilia like shop or something, and then he was like, I guess these guys try to like set him up or something with the feds. I don't know, man, the whole story, but like, you know, he tried to explain it to me, but I don't remember. But he was a pretty nice guy. His name was something Hamilton. His last name was Hamilton. I think he was actually related to the president, like the old, you know, American president Hamilton. Like that, you know, that was like his family line. Man, he used to be a pilot too. He said he used to fly helicopters and like small like prop planes and shit. Man, I'm not snitching, man. That shit's over with, man. It's over with. I got in trouble. They caught me for that shit too. In there, man, this guy set me up, and then they sent me to the shoe, man. They sent me to the shoe, And then, man, motherfucking, they shipped me to the other prison, man. And then everybody was cool there because I used to know, like, Carolina got shipped there too because he got in trouble with the cell phone. And then everybody was over there. They already knew what's up, man. Hey, you like that story? That's a cool story, or that's some bullshit? And then, man, my mom's like, "You stupid motherfucker! I told you don't do that shit." What ain't my fault, man? I'm a computer hacker, man. I got in trouble, man. I shouldn't have did that shit, man. I couldn't hack my release date, man. It's impossible. You can't do that. It's not possible, man. I was there for 3 years, man. I was stuck in that bitch for 36 months, man. And they had me locked in. On the way out, they put you in the shoe because of this fucking COVID shit, man. And I got COVID, but like they put you in there before, some bullshit quarantine, and then I was locked up, and then they were supposed to send me to the halfway house. Listen, man, they were gonna send me to the halfway house. Like the halfway house, when you get out of Fed, like they send you to the halfway house. It's like some fucking shit place where you gotta live there with a bunch of motherfuckers. It's kind of like prison, but you're out. You can go see your family and shit like that. I'm like, fuck that. So, anyways, like I never made it to the halfway house because they were supposed to let me out that day, and then my COVID test didn't come back, and then she's like, "Oh, we'll take it, we'll let you out next week." I'm like, what the fuck? You're supposed to let me out today, you fucking bitch. And then she's like, "Who you call me then?" I said, "Man, I'm fucking supposed to be out today. I'm supposed to fucking be going home. What the fuck kind of shit is this, man? I've been waiting 3 fucking years. You bitches don't want to let me out." And she's like, "Fuck," and she slammed the door in my face. I was in the shoe, and she's like, "Fuck you." So they wrote me up. They gave me like a shot for like some shit, like because I called that bitch a bitch. And fucking because I did that, like she wrote me up, and then she fucking made me stay. I had to stay there an extra month. I'm like, fucking. So I did my halfway house in prison, in the shoe, man. I'm like, what the fuck, man? And I was reading the Bible and all kinds of fucking dumb shit, man. And then fucking, man, it was terrible in there, man. I was losing it, man. Inside, man, imagine being in a fucking, like, in the room the size of your fucking bathroom for like 2 months, man. You give you food through the door, and you take a shower 3 times a week. That's it, man. And then, I'm saying Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, man. No, I don't speak Indian, man. Listen, man, it was fucked up, man. I was real depressed in there, man. They put you in this room. There's no windows, nothing. You can see there's light outside. There's like little holes in the window. You can't see nothing. You can't see shit, man. They got some girls that work there, like the fucking guards. One of them was pretty. She was all right, but she was a bitch, man. You know what I'm saying? She was all right though. I liked her. She was cool. I forgot her name, man. But I heard, hey, after I got out, this motherfucker, he told me that this guy used to call me from in there, and he told me that bitch got it. She was fucking some inmate, and then they caught her, and then fucking she got fucking. I don't know if that's true or not. I think that's some bullshit, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, man. I'm glad I'm not there no more, man. This shit was fucking terrible, man. It's terrible. And then I was out. I got a job. I was doing good, and then fucking I lost my job right now, man. I gotta find another job, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, guess what, man? My friend got locked back up, man. All my friends I used to have out here, they were like, "This is a dangerous town, man." It's like I know. Listen, man, when I was locked up, and I met this guy in prison. He was my friend when I used to live I used to live down the street. When I was a kid, I used to come by this guy's house. He was my friend. We used to go to school together, and we used to play like Super Nintendo and shit on the TV and stuff. We used to play like Street Fighters and all kinds of shit, right? Then he moved somewhere. I never heard from him again. And then man, so what happened? I was locked in. I was in an MCC the Metropolitan Correctional Center when they brought, you know what I'm saying, in downtown Chicago. And when they moved me to the other floor, to the 17th floor and shit, and I'm like, man, and then this, like, I didn't know these guys over there. I'm like, who the fuck are these guys, man? And then like they gave me like a tray full of food and shit, and I had like some kind of snack I didn't want, man. So I went up to this guy over there at the table. I said, hey man, hey, you want this, man? He's like, yeah. And then he looked at me for a second, man, and then he's like, you know, and I sit down, I was eating my food and shit, and then he's like, hey man, like he started fucking with me. He's like, hey motherfucker, Eddie. He's like, Eddie. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, dude, you don't recognize me, man? I was like, no. Who the fuck are you, man? He's like, man, you don't remember me? It's fucking what the fuck was his name, man? I forgot his name. His name was shit. I gotta remember his name. His name was Anthony. Tony. He's like, it's Tony, man. Tony from where, man? He's like, man, remember you were a fucking kid, man. I lived down your street, motherfucker. You used to come by my house and play video games and shit, man. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Yeah, man, I remember you, motherfucker. What's going on, man? You moved to him. He's like, why are you? He's like, what the fuck? He's like, what the fuck did you do? Why are you in there? How the fuck did you end up in here, man? I was like, man, dude, I got in trouble with the computer, man. I was like, he's like, what are you, a fucking chomo, man? I'm like, nah, motherfucker, I ain't on no bullshit like that. He's like, what the fuck did you do? I'm like, man, I got in trouble. I was working at this company, man, and these motherfuckers started fucking, you know, they fired me for no reason and shit, man. And I was mad at these motherfuckers. You know, I went in the system and I deleted the shit I was doing, like my work from their fucking. Fuck, you're a chomo, motherfucker. I'm like, man, I deleted the database that we were working on, man. And then motherfucking all their machines, because they depend on the database to communicate with the, you know, these vending machines and shit, and they fucking stopped working. So I'm like, fuck it, I don't give a fuck, you know. So anyways, man, he's like, man, that's crazy, dude. He's like, you're always with a computer, man. You're always fucking with the computers and shit. I'm like, yeah. And this guy, I'm like, what the fuck did you do? How the fuck you end up in here? He's like, he was in a gang, man. He was in this gang called 2-6 or some shit, man. And he's like, man, dude, don't because you know me, we're cool. And he's like the leader of that gang or something. He's one of the leaders or some shit, man. And he's like, man, nobody's gonna fuck with you here, man. No. I said, all right, man. And then we used to go downstairs to the gym and play basketball, like 21 and shit. I used to fucking play with them and shit, and like fucking you know what I'm saying? It was funny, man. They just call me Russia in there, man. He's like Russia, and he's like fucking. You know what I'm saying? It was funny, man. I used to say some dumb shit in there, and people were laughing at me, man. Like one time, the guard, man, they seen that like this guy gave me the money that he owed me, like some stamps and shit, and fucking the guard saw that, and he's like, "What the fuck, man?" I'm like, "Come on, man." He's like, "What's this shit?" I'm like, "Come on, man. That's for Delta Tree is for there's like a program like that where you can see everything on the hard drive, man." Yeah, man. I used to say some funny ass shit, man. I'm like, "Come on." I said, "Come on, man. It's for pumps." And then they kept repeating that shit like to this day, probably in there, man. They like fucking. And I had a friend. He was a cocaine dealer, man. He used to sell. They got caught fucking cocaine, like shit, man. He was cool. He used to let me use his phone and all kind of call my mom and stuff, man. He was cool. His name was Mag. M-A. That was his nickname, Mag. He was my friend, man. Magdaleno was his name. I missed that motherfucker, man. And then my friend Sharky, he used to cook me, like he was Puerto Rican. He used to make rice, man. He's like I used to buy this food and shit on account. He used to cook, man. He used to know how to cook real good. Like you can't make that shit, like, because we didn't have access to the microwave. We used to sneak into this like unit for drugs addicts. It's called RDAP. And we used to sneak in the RDAP and use the microwave, man, because we didn't have a microwave and shit. And they took all the microwaves, man. It was so fucking like, man, you can't cook nothing, man. How do you cook with no microwave, motherfucker? They got like boiling hot water. And you can buy like noodle soups and shit in the commissary, like oodles of noodles type shit, and you could like put it in a bowl and then fucking pour hot water on it and make like fucking noodles and rice and all kinds of shit. We used to buy this shit on commissary. It was nasty as fuck, man. Like whatever, man. Sardines and shit. Sardines. We used to eat sardines and shit, and fucking mackerels and shit. Now they only had sardines. They didn't have sardines in everywhere. This one guy, he came from another jail, and he had sardines and shit. And he was like, man, I got some sardines, man. I'll trade you for some other shit. I said, all right, man. You can't get shit. You know what I'm saying? It's fucking nasty shit, man. Hey, these guys had a hot plate, and they fucking, like my celly, he had a hot plate, and he's a cook, like he used to buy this beef shit on the commissary, and he's like, we mix it with rice, beef and rice, and he's like cook it all up on the, and so, like they used to like put some peppers in there and all kinds of shit, and it was good, man. And you know what I'm saying? I used to work in the kitchen, but I used to work in the dish room, and then these motherfuckers had what is it called, man? My friend, this guy used to have like food all the time, man. He used to get food, and my celly was the guy, man. He went back, he got locked back up. He's the one that got in trouble with the fuck. His name was L, man. He went back to prison, man. He was out. He's from my neighborhood. I seen him after we get out, man. I'm like, hey, motherfucker. Oh, man. He used to work in the kitchen, but he used to get food and stuff, and he used to bring it into, because he was my celly. He used to share, he used to give me food and stuff because he was cool, man. He used to bring me like pasta and fucking garlic bread and all kinds of shit, man. Hey, motherfucker, Carolina was making big money. He was funny, man. They had cigarettes and all kinds of shit. I don't smoke or nothing, but I was like, it was funny to, like, I was just hanging out with him and shit. And they used to have all kinds of stands. He's like, hey, man, you want to buy me a pop, man? Go downstairs. Hey, I'll buy you a pop. And you just buy me one and go downstairs to get the cold pops from this guy. And fucking, we'll hang out and shit, man. And we used to fucking hang out in my room. Upstairs in the fucking, we used to fucking, drink pops and shit, and these guys would bring food and all kinds. It was cool, man. They used to make burritos, and then this one guy was making, like, man, this Russian guy. He was cool with this one guy in the other unit, and that guy was making wine and shit. And he's like, man, I told him, hey, man, I love alcohol, man. And he's like, man, when I get some, I'll get you some, man. And then one time he's like, hey, man, I got some shit, man. Come over in the unit. And we came over there, and I went over there with him. And he's like, man, look, I saved you a whole glass of fucking, like, this big cup full of they made like this wine. It was so it tasted so good, man. It was like it was pure. It was like alcohol, man. It was like sweet because they made it from like this fruit salad shit, man. You know, they had fruit salad shit, and they had like, they put some, the guy used to work in the kitchen, got some yeast, and he threw it in there. That shit was like couple weeks, man. That shit was so fucking good, man. It was good, man. Yeah. And then, man, it was fucked up, man. I got in trouble a lot in there, man, for dumb shit. I got, like, they wrote me up for dumb shit. Because my stupid, like, I was living with these guys, and this guy made, like, they were making some kind of alcohol with some fucking ketchup or some shit. It was nasty. He let me try it. That shit was gross, man. And they were making, like, it was like tomato sauce or something. They made it out of tomato juice or some shit. It was nasty as hell. But anyways, he had a whole like a bottle of that shit in his locker. And since we were all living in the same fucking room, they fucking they came and looked, they found that shit, and then the motherfuckers like, oh man, you're all taking this shit, man, because he didn't want to take the shot for it. So they gave it to everybody. Everybody got written up like 300 series. No, but he took the shot. He took the shot, but they still wrote us up. And then I had all kinds of bullshit on my record, man. I don't give a fuck, man. That shit's stupid, man. That place was really, really stupid, man. That place was really fucking dumb. Yeah. The food was terrible, man. They had like shit. They had some good food. Like sometimes they give you like on Mondays you get let's see what's on Mondays, some shit, man. Tuesday you get like a chicken sandwich. It was good. And then Wednesday you get burgers. Thursday we get chicken. Wednesday burgers, Thursday chicken, and Friday you get fish sandwich. That shit was good, man. And then like the other days is all shit, and then dinner is like bullshit too, man. They give you carb like weird shit all the time, but it was okay. Sometimes they had it like MREs, like they used to have like these little peach things. You can make alcohol from that shit, but I never did. Like I used to like eating them. They were like dehydrated apples and shit. Like in this little pouch. It was from the military. Nah, man, we don't eat fucking bologna, man. Hey, this one guy, hey, there was this one doctor there, some Hindu guy and shit, and he was fucking, he owned he was there for tax evasion because he had a restaurant or something and he didn't fucking pay the taxes. They gave him like 6 or 7 months and shit, and then like, man, they used to give like sometimes the kitchen was fucked up. They used to give us bologna sandwich. I never ate that shit, man. And then, like somebody had bologna that was there like laying there like for a long time. And then they gave him the fucking bologna and shit. And then he ate it. And he fucking threw up and he was throwing up. I'm like, I told you not to eat that shit, motherfucker. Oh man, he was a stupid motherfucker, man. Nah, man, we didn't have no sloppy joes, man. They give you shit food, and sometimes on the holidays they give you like they had some cool. They had like this ramen noodles. They had like these Asian noodles that were like egg noodles and shit or something. Rice noodles. They were pretty good, man. You know, I used to fucking make make the noodles and then drain them and shit, right? And then put some hot sauce in there. And I just put some beef in there and mix all that shit up and then put that shit inside of a burrito, man, like some wraps. And then like try to get, if we have microwave, like to the other, we used to go to the, what do you call that place? Like the fucking, like the main, like there's like this place where you could play pool. They have pool tables and shit in there. You could play pool with some motherfucker. I played a couple times with this other guy named Russia, this other Russian guy and shit. They had like a library. We used to go to a library and fucking read books and shit. And this one guy was a fucking weirdo, and he turned into be a prick when he got out. We were talking on the phone and shit, and then he was like, "Fuck you, man." I'm like, "For what, man?" He was like talking crazy, man. I said, "Fuck you, dude. Forget you." But he was a weirdo. He used to talk about all kinds of plants and mushrooms and all kinds of shit. He was fucking interesting. He was cool, but then he turned into a prick, man. The prison was that people were cool, man. I had some people that I got in a fight one time. This guy beat my ass, man. He punched me in the face, man, because some dumb shit. He got caught for the cell phone. It wasn't my fault. It was his fucking phone. It wasn't my phone. I told him don't buy it, man. He was a stupid motherfucker, and then he had no hiding spot or nothing. And then I'm supposed to fucking watch for, like, you know, do the security for him and shit. I didn't even want to do. He's like, I'll let you use the phone, okay? So like he was talking to his stupid girlfriend, and then fucking I was watching for him. Then it was my turn to use the phone. So then he started telling me shit about his girlfriend. I don't give a fuck, man. Go watch the door, man. Do security. He didn't even do that. He gave me the phone. I take the phone. I call my mom and shit. All of a sudden, man, all of a sudden, man, the fucking cops pop up, walk past the door. I'm like, oh shit! I turned the phone off. I threw it out. I gave it to this motherfucker. Man. It's like, and it was like 3 a.m. He's like, what the fuck? The cops come in like, what the fuck are you doing over here, motherfucker? I said, man, I'm drinking coffee, motherfucker. Can't you see I'm drinking coffee? And then they're like, oh man, you're not supposed to have cell phones. They're all illegal in the feds. You can't have a cell phone. They snuck those cell phones in, man. I was the IT guy, man. I used to put fucking like uTorrent and all kinds of shit on their phones so they could download movies. They used to download like movies and shit and put on a memory card and used to plug it in TV. Used to watch like fucking movies in the theater shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so these motherfuckers, man, they were always looking for the phones, man. But these motherfuckers, they don't understand that they gotta like they probably had. Yeah, man, my celly had a cell phone, and man, these motherfuckers, there was rats in there, man. These motherfuckers were watching, and they were telling the cops that, yeah, man, there's a phone here. Cause like, look, man, my celly had a cell phone, and then he used to hide it in his locker with a magnet and shit. He made like a magnet, and he put the magnet on the back of the phone, and he would fucking stick it up on the locker inside like this panel and shit. There was like a false panel, and fucking, you know what I'm saying? They couldn't figure it out. But then, right, this motherfucker, one day they raided our unit and shit. The cops came all up in our unit, man. And they're like, motherfucking, they like smash everything and shit, right? They went through every fucking thing, man. And then I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? And they're all up in our room. All of a sudden, like I'm sleeping and shit. I see the cop fucking, it was like in the morning and shit, early as fuck. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then my celly went to work. He was in the, and I'm in the room and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? These guys are looking for his phone, man. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, fuck, please don't find his phone, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I used to use his phone to call my mom and shit. I didn't want to fucking be on their phone with the monitoring shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, what the fuck? And they're looking around for his fucking phone, man. I'm like, how the fuck would they know that he's got a phone in there, man? Somebody was snitching, man. There was snitches and like, motherfucker. We used to do security. Like, I used to do security. He's like, man, look, do security 30 minutes. You get 30 minutes on the phone. I was like, all right, man. I used to go by the window and look out the fucking window. And, you know what I'm saying? If there's a cops are coming into our unit, man, you got to be like, floor wet. As soon as they walk, so everybody knows, man, the motherfuckers, one time they ran in, everybody's like, they all ran in the bathrooms with their cell phone. They used to hide them inside like underneath, there's like a hiding spot. They used to like, they hollowed out a stall in the bathroom and they used to put all the phones in there and shit, man. There was one guy, man, he had they used to make holes in the wall, in the floor with these maintenance guys. They used to they used to fucking cut holes and shit and make like secret compartments and shit for phones, man. And this guy, I know he's like had a stack of fucking phones, man. They used to sell the phones in there, man. Man, those guys were cool, man. Man, they had like, I know they were fucking getting on. Hey, sometimes they're like, these guys, they're called crash test dummies, man. They would run out and grab when they throw the bag over the fence. They run out and grab the bag and like put it like they make sure like they have like a mask on and like something over their face so they don't know who the fuck it is, man. And they ran up in our unit one time at night, man. And all of a sudden the cops run after him, like, and I was downstairs, man. They're like, hey, man, what the fuck? They're thinking it was me, man. And then they called me to the office and shit. They're like, Eddie, they called me the medical. I'm like, medical for what, man? I go in there and then the cops grab me from there. They're like, hey, man, tell us what happened. I'm like, man, fuck you, dude. What? I don't know nothing. I said, I don't know nothing, man. I don't know nothing. He's like, yeah, you do. You're all in. I'm like, dude, it wasn't me. He's like, that guy that we got him on a trail camera. It looked like you, man. I'm like, it's not me. I don't know nothing about that, man. He's like, man, last night there was a bag they brought into your unit. I said, I don't fucking know nothing about that, man. I have no idea about that shit, man. I said, man, I was downstairs in the TV room watching TV, man. I don't give a fuck about that shit. Nah, man. I was, man, like I did some shit, but not a lot, man. I used to play like basketball. I used to fucking walk around. I used to fucking do push-ups and shit, man. Like there were cool guys in there, man. Mag was cool. It was my friend. Hey, when I walked, because he knew I was rushing and shit, he was like upstairs in one of the units and shit, and he was on his phone and shit, and he was doing security or something. I was walking by, he's like, "I will break you." He used to say that to me. He's like, "I will break you." He was funny, man. And then one of the guys that was in my my cellmate, whatever, he was a fucking rat. They found out he was a rat because like he was like this Arab guys, and they got in there for like they owned a cell phone store, and all their phones were stolen or some shit, and then they were fucking some bullshit like that, right? And they got in trouble for all the stolen phones. This guy, they found out, man, somebody found out that he cooperated with the feds, man. And then these motherfuckers, like, they confronted him right away. They all came up and checked him, like, "Hey, man, motherfucker, you cooperated. Here's in the papers." They found somewhere on Google, somewhere on the phone. They found out, and then he's like, "Ooh." And then he's like, "I gotta check in, man." He's like, you go to the cops. He went to the cops, and he's like, "I gotta check in." So he checked into the shoe. They put him in the shoe, and then he's like, "You don't want to be around nobody because he's scared you might fuck him up or something." And so then he's like, "Yeah, man, this is the excerpt from my time in the federal prison, man." Anyway, yeah, man. Oh man, this guy, I told this guy I used to work with. He's my colleague at work and shit. He's like, I'm like, "Hey man, I gotta tell you something, man." He's like, "What?" He's like, "Man, we were talking about some shit." I'm like, "Man, I was like, man, I feel bad because I'm like I let my mom down. I got in trouble when I was," and then he started asking me questions like, "What kind of trouble you get into? What happened, man?" And I was like, "Look, man, I can't talk about it." He's like, I got. Then later, like, man, you know what I'm saying, after work and shit, because he was cool. He was my friend and shit. I told him, I said, "Hey, man, I got to call." I called him. He was driving. I was behind him in the other car. I said, "Hey, man, you know what I'm saying, I gotta tell you, man, what happened." He's like, "What do you mean? What happened, man?" He's like, "Man, if I tell you though, you can't say shit, man, because if you do, man, I'm gonna lose my fucking job, man." He's like, "No, don't worry, man. It's cool, man." I said, "Man, I was locked up in the feds, man." He's like, "For what?" And he's like, "Why are you locked up? For what did you get locked up for?" I said, "Man, I was a computer hacker, man. From, what, you lost a pool to Russia, now his girl telling you to get lost, coming around, right?" Yeah, man, Russia's fucked, man. This guy, man, he got in trouble for he was like transporting drugs, man, fucking cocaine from California somewhere. I don't know. And they were driving and they got busted, and the cops went through the car and they found all the drugs, the coke and shit, man. Fucking, they got him and somebody else, man. I'm like, "Man, what the fuck, man?" I was like, "Why the fuck you get it? Why you do that, man?" And he got it, like somebody shot him, and he used to limp and shit because he got shot in his leg, and he used to have like a cane, and he used to walk around with, like, crutches and shit, man. I'm like, damn, dude. He got shot. But he was cool. He had a gambling addiction. He used to gamble all the time. And like they used to play cards in their poker and shit, man. And he was like, man, he's lost a lot of money on the poker table in the prison. And then he's like, "Fuck you, motherfuckers." He's like, "Charity's closed, motherfucker." Some shit like that. He's like, "This is the charity's closed." Because he's like fucking he lost. I'm like, damn, these guys are like playing for real, like big money, man. I'm like, damn, why you guys spend all this money? They love that shit. I don't know. I'm like, I used to play dominoes, man, with the Puerto Rican motherfuckers. With Sharky used to teach me how to play dominoes. And then there was this other guy named Dave. He was my friend. He was cool. He was in there for methamphetamine shit, man. I miss that guy. He was so cool, man. We used to like talk. He was like a real cool motherfucker, man. Like, He used to like sing songs about like he used to sing like fucking those like alternative songs and shit. And he was funny, man. I used to fucking love that. We used to go in the church in the chapel and fucking go and like watch TV in there, man. Like movies and shit. Old school movies. Why, man? I'm gonna tell you whatever the fuck I want to tell you. I can speak. I'm a freedom of speech. I'm free now, man. I ain't locked up, man. I don't. You don't tell me what the fuck to do, man. I tell everybody anything I want to tell. I never lie, man. I always tell the truth, motherfucker. But I'm not a snitch, man. I never ratted on nobody, man. Like I'm not a piece of shit. Hey, when I was locked up, they're like, man. Hey, when I was in the MCC. And I was walking like through the, they were walking to the courthouse, like they're taking me to court. These guys were yelling. He's like, "Hey man, who's that?" He's like, "I know that guy, that Russian guy." When he was walking by their cell, he's like, "Man, that guy's from the Russian." He's like, "That guy's from the Russian crime boss, man. He's from the Russian crime family." It was like some motherfuckers. They were like that. He's like, "That's that guy who's from the Russian crime family, man." That's funny, man. That shit was that. I was laughing at that one, man. That shit was. I was scared, man. You don't know what it's like to be locked in there, man. It was fucked up in that cage, man. And there's like toilet and fucking nasty shit, fucking metal toilet, metal sink. Fuck, man, that place, man. Oh man, I used to sleep on the top bunk, man. And one time I fucking fell off that motherfucker and hit like the metal hit my chest, like boom. I busted my ass, man. Like fuck. I used to jump up on the fucking man. I used to jump up on the sink. And then you jump off the sink onto the bed, man. Fuck that shit, man. Then when motherfucker take a shit, you turn around, man. It's nasty, man. That sucks, man. I hate being locked up, man. That was crazy shit. Hey, when I got out, I bought me this watch, man. I was like, man, I'm cool. You wish you had a watch like this. This watch plays music and everything, man. If you had like this, and if somebody had this in prison, man, they'd be like, man, shit. You didn't have nothing, man, in prison, man. Fucking garbage, like some cheap headphones, and somebody left me a radio that was fucked up, man. They only had it only had AM or something, man. Like I don't give a fuck, man. I just listen to news radio and shit, man. Oh, it did have FM. It didn't have, something was missing. It was fucked up somewhere. No, yeah, I got a different radio. Yeah, one radio only had AM, and then I fucked that radio. I got another radio. Somebody gave me. I didn't want to buy that on the commissary. I don't want to spend money on shit that I can get from motherfuckers, man. This guy had a watch in there, like some cheap ass fucking Timex that this fucking guy gave me for a book of stamps, man. And it didn't have a fucking strap. It was made. This guy made one for me for another book of stamps for $6. It was made out of fucking it was made out of leather, man. They made it out of leather. And then I lost this piece. What do you call this piece? This clasp and shit, like, or this thing. I lost it. It was broke. So I'm like, man, I don't got a clasp, man. He's like, oh, not to worry, man. He made it with Velcro, man. So you could like put a Velcro like that. And it was fucking cool, man. It had an the Hindu glow light, man. The Hindu glow. You press the button and it lights up green. And it had a chronograph. It had everything you need, man. It had a timer, chronograph, countdown, timer, all kinds of shit, man. You know what I'm saying? It was a Timex. And then these guys had G-Shocks. Yeah, Hindu glow. Man. I don't like Lou Melinati's, man. Their pizzas are not as good as they used to be good a long time ago. Now that's all watered down. Like their pizzas are watery and shit, man. And then the crust is all fucking weird, man. I used to eat that shit, man. I don't like it. And I like Todino's, but I haven't been there in many years. But I used to make my own pizza, man. You just cook your own damn pizza. My mom used to make it. You go to Trader Joe's and you get like some naan bread. and then you put like tandoori naan bread, and you put some fucking cheese on it, and you fucking put some like spinach and shit, and that shit's fucking good, man. Maybe one day I will, man. Maybe one day I will. Nah, man, I didn't have to shank nobody. Hey, this guy told me he got in trouble. They sent him from one. Hey, he died though. He's dead now, man. He got out, and he was a heroin addict, and he was a real nice guy. His name was like I forgot what but he was a big dude, man. This black dude, and he used to drive a Beamer. He said he had a 740i or some shit, like some piece of shit Beamer. But the 740i or no 740 Li, the new, the newer ones and shit. Not new, but you know what I'm saying. And then he was a heroin addict. He told me he died when he got out. He overdosed and died, man. This guy named Pimp told me about him. He's like, Pimp called me from prison, and Pimp said, he said, man, remember fucking old boy, the big dude? I forgot his name, man. Fuck if I remember, is it T or something? I forgot his name, but he said the old boy died, man. I'm like, are you fucking serious, man? We used to eat, we were chilling together. We used to hang out and talk and play chess. We used to play chess and shit. He said he died, man. He got on and did a fucking, he overdosed. But anyways, he told me how he got into drugs. He said when he was a kid, man, his brother used to fucking do like heroin and shit. And he took his brother's jacket. One time they was going out or something. He took his brother's jacket, and he was hanging out with his friends and shit. And he went in the pocket, and there was like, his brother used to he wrapped it in like this aluminum foil shit, right? And he opened it up, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?" And then his boy's like, "Oh, I know what that is, man. That's heroin, man. Heron. That's heron, man." And he's like, "What the fuck?" And then he used to smoke that shit. He's like, they rolled it up into a fucking, they rolled it up with some weed and smoked it. And then he said he fucking, ever since he did that, he never stopped. He was like addicted to that shit, man. And then he fucking just kept doing it and doing. He's like, "What the?" And then he got sent back because he did a drop. The drop when they test your piss. That's called a drop, but it's like, it's basically like a drug test, like urinalysis drug test, man. And they caught him. He was dirty, and they said they fucking violated him, and he came back, right? So then I met him they brought me to that prison because I got in trouble with the printer. And then, Carolina and everybody was there, but I didn't know he was there yet because I was still locked in the shoe with this guy. And then they locked me in the shoe with this guy. And then there was this prison guard. She was ugly as fuck. And I gave her a nickname. Remember that girl from Addams Family? No, I didn't unplug it, man. This guy fucking snitched on me, man. He set me up. They set me up, man. Anyway. So like this girl, she was like a fucking prison guard. She was retarded or something. She was like, "Ugh." And then this one, she was cool. And anyways, I gave her a nickname. I called her Wednesday from Addams Family. I said Wednesday, and then this guy's like, "Man, Wednesday's gonna be there, man." And then this one time, like I used to talk on a phone, like they give you 2 phone calls a month in the shoe, and I used to I only talk in Russian on the phone, man. And I'm in some fucking hillbilly town in like Minnesota somewhere, man, in the prison. Nobody knows Russian. All of a sudden, like I'm on the phone, man. I'm like, "What the fuck?" I'm telling my mom, I was telling her some shit in Russian, man. And all these dudes, the black dudes, like, "Hey, man, talk your shit, man. Talk your shit, man." It's that foreign shit, man. Anyway, and then that bitch came by the door. She's like, what language were you speaking, man? What language were you speaking? I was speaking Russian, Paruski. Anyway, man, it was fucking hell in that bitch, man. Anyway, then they let us out. It was fucking, they put me in some C unit with no air conditioning and shit. It was fucked up, man. And that's where I met Pimp and the other motherfuckers, man. And D was there. This guy named D. His name was Big D, and he got in trouble. And they sent him. He knows me. He's like, yeah, I know this guy. They were all they told it like motherfuckers like, who's this motherfucker, man? They want to know who you are. They want to check your papers and everything because they don't fuck with people just like that, man. They got like fucking SOs in there. We don't fuck with SO. You know, like when I was in the camp, there's no SOs in the camp, man. There's no sex offenders. There's no fucking like chomos, child molester motherfuckers. And then in the fucking prison, in that one, they had SOs, sex offenders. We don't fuck with them. They can't touch those motherfuckers are like scum of the earth type motherfuckers. They can't touch the TV. You know, they can watch TV, but they can't touch the remote. They can't change the channel. They can't do shit, man. They're fucking just scumbag. Hey, one guy, his name was Harper. He was my friend, man. His name was Harper. He's like, he's like, go to the fucking SOs, man. Go to their store because there's like motherfuckers that run a store. They sell like commissary shit. He's like, go tell them to put it on my tab, and I ain't paying it because they're fucking SOs, man. That's funny. And then like there was this one guy from Wisconsin, man, and he was cool, man. They fucking got high off this shit, man, called these fucking they used to do like, do you ever like Deuce? You know what I'm talking about? Deuce, K2. It's like that synthetic marijuana shit, and they got it like these motherfuckers get it somehow. They get it in legal mail or something. They spray it on paper and then they cut it in little strips and shit, and then they sell those fucking strips. They make, man. This one guy spent all his mom sending him money for food. And this motherfucker's buying fucking drugs, man. You know, that shit sucks, man. And he spent all his money. He spent a lot of money, like thousands of dollars. And then there's one big ass guy. I forgot what his name was. He was a cool guy, man. He was my friend. Like real big fucking guy from Florida. He's got in trouble for some guns or some shit. Like illegal guns or something. I don't know what the fuck. But anyways, he was cool, and then they used to smoke all that shit all the time, man. They used to smoke fucking that crack shit, the fucking K2, and get all fucking they were acting weird when they did that shit. And then one guy, like, he was fucking Harper used to smoke that shit all the time. I used to hang out with them all the time. I used to hang out with them when they smoke. One night we got all fucked up. This guy was smoking. I never smoked that shit, but, you know, like. One time I bought a bunch of coffee because I was on restriction I was on sanctions because I got in trouble with the printer. I was on sanctions, so I couldn't buy nothing on commissary for a while. And we're like, fuck. So the only shit I could buy coffee or some shit. But like, man, so I bought a bunch of coffee, and then one night we're like, hey man, you want some coffee, man? He's like, yeah, man, you want to drink some coffee with me, man? And he's like, yeah, let's drink some coffee. We would drink coffee all night, man. We got fucking man. The next day I couldn't sleep, and I was like fucked up, and I had to go to work like with the lawnmower. I had to cut grass and shit with a lawnmower, man. And I was like, fuck that, I ain't going. And then the fucking CO came up. And he's like, motherfucker. He kicked my bed, and like, man, I was like, fuck you, dude. And then they took my locker and he smashed the locker, and fucking like all my shit was on the floor, man. And then my cellie's like, what the fuck, man? He didn't say it to me. He's like, man. And then everybody's like, leave that shit the way it is. Fuck those motherfuckers. I said, no, man, I can't because my cellie, I don't want my cellie to be upset. You know, we lived in like this like cubicle shit, man. At the other prisons, like a big warehouse, and you're in a cubicle. And I'm like, man, he's like, man, he's like, my son, this guy's like, fuck those motherfuckers. You can't let them treat you like that, man. You fuck those CO motherfuckers. He's like, man, just leave that shit on the floor like that. Fuck them. Let them clean it up themselves. I said, no, man, I can't let my cellie, you know, he was here before me. I like picked all this shit up and I sweeped it up and like, fuck these motherfuckers, man. And nothing was in there, just like fucking, there was nothing in there, man. He just spilled there was some creamer for coffee. I don't even use that shit. It was just like fucking laying on. That was all that fell. And then the clothes and all that shit, that's nothing. That was all like their clothes, institution clothes. It wasn't my shit. I don't have, you know, I didn't have nothing, man. I had some gray sweat when they let me out. I had some gray sweaters and sweatpants and shit when I was in Minnesota on the bus station. There was like bums and shit over there. I was like, "Hey man, you want a pair of gray pants and shit, man? You want a sweater from the gangsters in prison?" He's like, "Yeah, it was brand new. I wore it like once or twice, but I didn't fuck it up. It was like perfect. It was laundered and shit. Pimp used to take care of me. He told his guys at the laundry to fold my clothes and put them on the fold because he used to pay those motherfuckers. He used to pay to fold all my clothes real nice and everything and put on my bed. So I didn't have to go to laundry. They did this shit for me, the motherfuckers, because I was cool with Pimp. Pimp was the man in the fucking over there, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what happened to Pimp. His mom, oh man, Pimp's mom died when he was locked in there. I was crying. I was crying too, man. Cause man, you know what I'm saying? Imagine that you're locked up and your mom passes away. He had family, he had brothers and shit, but that shit was really sad, man. He was my friend in there. He kept me like, he used to cook for me and shit, and we used to fucking hang out and talk and stuff, and man, it's really fucking. Nah, Pimp didn't do my laundry. He paid the motherfuckers that used to do laundry in there. He paid them because they used to do his laundry and fold it and all that shit. He paid them to do my laundry too, so that my laundry is folded and nice. And man, I had like this guys gave me a pair of shoes. I had like these white pair of shoes that they were kind of fucked up, and I told man, I took it to a laundry guys. I said, man, I used to do my laundry all the time in the camp. I used to do my own laundry all the time, but here they didn't want you to do laundry. They had like motherfuckers working in the laundry, man. So you just give them your clothes once a week. You give them your clothes, all your dirty shit, and they fucking wash it, and then they put it back. You know what I'm saying? They say like these they had different, and in the camp they had greens. And in the fucking prison of the day, it was like beige, man. I had like a beige jacket and like a hat and shit. I had somebody give me a pair of sunglasses. Hey man, I had a radio. I was to fucking go out there and hey, this one dude was trying to make some wine out of dandelions, man. Harper, he's like, that's how I met him. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, man, we make dandelion wine, man. I was like, how the fuck do you make dandelion wine, man? And then he's like, man, you get a bunch of dandelions and shit. Huh? This watch, it's a piece of shit watch. It's like some Chinese watch, but it's cool. But I don't like wearing it because it's not waterproof, man. It's a 6'4", it's a clone of a Unitas 6497. It's a skeletonized 6497 movement. I don't know, man. I never drink that shit, man. These guys got caught. This one guy, man, he got in trouble, man. I almost got in trouble too, man. I was in the shower during count time, and this bitch is like, "Where the fuck, man?" She's like, "Get your ass out of there, man." She was real pretty though. This girl that used to work there, this guard, but she was a fucking bitch, man. You know, she was like, and then she's like, we were walking there, and he's like, hey, ladies. She told me and my friend, and then she's like, what? And she's like, I like fucking with you, motherfuckers, man. I was like, I didn't want to say that. You say some stupid shit, they lock your ass back up. I was gonna put your ass in the shoe for talking shit. I was gonna say, you want to fuck me, bitch? She was fucking hot, man, but she was a fucking mean, nasty bitch, man. You know, fucking. Then there was some, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, it was bad, and they lock you in a big ass room, and that's it. You can't go out. No, the showers, there's like individual stalls, like metal stalls in there, and you go in there and you press the button, and they got like fucking soaps, and no, you get your own soap, man. You buy your own soap. I used to buy like Neutrogena soap on commissary, man. That shit was good soap. That Neutrogena bar, I used to wash up. It smells good, man. And fucking be clean and the motherfucker, man. Cut your nails with the nail clipper and shit. and then go fucking sit with and like go hang out with my friends in front of the TV, man. It's like, hey, man, they're like chairs, man. I used to sit on. He's like, man, you can't be sitting in my chair, bro. I'm like, dude, I just want to sit next to my friends, man. He's like, go get your own fucking chair, man. I was like, man, you guys put your chair there, though. I can't put it right there, man, because you know what I'm saying? I want to just sit next. He's like, all right, fuck it. You can sit next to your friend, man. You know, it's like, all right, man. I'm only going to be here 2 more weeks. I'm leaving. I'm going home soon, man. Fuck. Hey, when I got home, man, I was like, man, I couldn't believe it, man. I still can't believe I'm home, dude. I thought I'd never get out of that bitch, man. Luxine Poo, you're a piece of shit. You kicked me that day, motherfucker. We were talking and you kicked me. I can't hear you on mute, man. Come on, bro. Anyway, yeah, man. I thought when I got home, I was like, man, I didn't even think I was gonna, like, I don't know how I made it back home, man. Hey, I was scared to go outside, man. Then this girl I used to know, she's locked up now too, man. She fucking smokes crack, man. She was a crackhead, man. She was my friend though, you know. I'm like, you can't, they helped, they fed me sometimes, and you know, she fucked me a couple of times, you know. Like, fuck that bitch, man. She's locked up now for something. I don't know where she's at. I don't know if she's gonna come back or come out or what, man. I'm never gonna see her again. I try not to fucking, I gotta get my own thing, man. That's why I was working. I was trying to do good, man. I was doing good out here, man. I'm trying to do it again, man. I'm trying to go get a job Monday, man. You know what I'm saying? It's New Year's. I want to work for this fucking New Year's, man. I want to have a job, man. That's my New Year's fucking thing, man. I want to be working, making money, taking care of shit, maybe buy a new car. I don't even want a new car right now. I got a car, man. My car's good right now, It runs okay. I'm not no problem. Knock on wood, man. I might get I was thinking of buying like some shit car for work, just to go to work, so I don't have to drive a good car to work, I don't know, some shit. Maybe get another car. I don't know, whatever. We'll see. If not, then fuck it. Yeah, man. I don't know what that is, man. How do I know that's good? Man, I need some money, man. I'm hungry, man. I need money for food. I bought some food yesterday, but I want to eat more, man. I don't got that much money, man. Yeah, there's people who are telling me to change my name. But I don't want to change my name. Why would I want to change my name, man? I'm cool, man. I was on the news, man. Hey, I was on the news. They put me on the news, man. They're like, this fucking hacker hacks in and fucking blah, 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 and fucking does blah, blah, bling, bling, bling. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Hey, I threatened the feds, man. They were like, man, I was, I like talking shit. My stupid friend, man, I was on a chat room like this, but a different chat room. But it was like through a different thing. And then somebody recorded me and I was saying all kinds of fucking shit, man. I was saying fucking that I was gonna fucking run his ass over with the car and all kinds of dumb shit, man. I had a Jaguar. I used to drive a Jaguar, man. And they had me on video driving in the Jaguar and like drinking beers and shit, man. And then they brought that in the courtroom and the judge is like, woo, 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 woo. And I'm like, he's a blithering idiot. He called me a blithering idiot. The judge, man. And then they're like, fuck it, man. They wrote that in the newspaper, man. And then when I was in the fucking locked in, they locked me up and shit later on. And these guys were like, because my trial was coming up. And this guy was like, look, man, look at this dumb motherfucker. And it was me in the newspaper. I'm like, oh, fuck, man. And then they were like, they wrote this shit in the newspaper. They're like, I'm going to fuck that motherfucker up, man. I said, I was going to run his ass over with the Jaguar. It's like dumb shit, man. Stupid. I said, I was going to have I said, I got an AK. I was going to I was gonna fucking get an AK and blow this motherfucker's brains out and shit, like dumb shit, like stupid shit, man, right? And they wrote that in the newspaper, man. That was some dumb shit, man. Anyways, man, they threw me in the right away. The judge is like, bond is revoked. They revoked my bond and they put my ass in jail, man. Gotta go to jail. Man, I was crying like, I don't want to go to jail, man. And they didn't give a fuck, dude. They were like, the cops like, man, I was like, man, they're gonna fuck me up in there, man. I was scared, man. I've never been in jail. He's like, don't worry, man. It'll be okay, man. I was like, no, man, I don't want to go. Then they put me inside the shoe, man. They locked me in this big ass behind, man. I was like, where the fuck am I at, man? Where the fuck did I end up? And then I had a toothache, man. My tooth was killing me. I had a fucking what do you call that? Like my wisdom tooth was fucked up, and I was like, damn, man, I'm in so much pain. I'm locked up. I called the nurse, and the nurse is like, what's going on, baby? I said, man, my tooth is fucked up, man. I'm like, man. And then I had to wait like 4 months and shit. And then they saw the dentist, and the dentist had to do surgery on my tooth. They had to they like broke it and cut it, like they cut it out of my jaw, man. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, man. He's like, the extra, and then he's like, don't worry. And then they stuck me with like this fucking, what do you call it? That like some kind of nerve shit where you can't feel nothing, man. And then I'm like, damn, dude, I didn't feel shit, but I heard him like cracking, breaking my back tooth, man, like glass break. It sounded like glass breaking, man. I'm like, what the fuck are they? I'm like, I'm gonna be fucked up, man. And then I'm like, damn, man. I'm like, that's it. It's over with. Yeah, man. They gave me a bottle of Tylenol, man. And I didn't even take one. I didn't even take a Tylenol, man. And then like this guy's wanted to buy all the Tylenols I had, man. I'm like, all right, man. You want the Tylenol? Here, man. I don't need this shit, man. And then, like, you know, man. It was crazy. Hey, they had a guy named Uzi in there, man. Uzi, he was like this black dude. He was cool. And then what happened to him? Like these guys like got mad at him or something, and they all like, because he was all right, man. But they said he was a snitch, man. He said these motherfuckers are snitches. That's why they ended up locked up. And then yeah, Uzi was, and then there was this one guy in there. He was a young guy, real cool looking, nice guy, man. And he was my friend. We talked. Yeah, I'm like, what happened? He said he killed his fucking. He killed his neighbor or some shit for something. I don't remember. Like, yeah, Uzi was a snitch, man, in prison, man. This guy named Uzi. But anyways, man, this one guy, he was cool, and then he killed his friend or something, and because his friend, I'm like, damn. So they had him in there for murder. He was gonna do like mad time, like 20 years or some shit, man. I don't know what exactly he was there for, but he was fucked, man. But yeah, he was a murderer, man. And it was like these mobsters. They put me on the floor with these mobsters, man, the Italian mobsters, and they wanted me to give them some food, man. I was like, all right, man. He's like, I don't want to take nothing from you if you don't got nothing. If you're broke, I don't want it, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no worries, man. No worries, man. They just needed some like condiments, some mustard or some shit. I don't know what the fuck, some bullshit, mayonnaise or some shit, man. Motherfucker. Man, fuck that place, man. That place was traumatized. Man, I'm fucked, man. Hey, that shit fucks your mind up from being locked up in there. Hey, they had, like, man, the psychiatrist wanted, I'm like, look, man. Oh, yeah, the psychiatrist wanted to see me because, like, I was talking on the phone and I was, like, told my mom, I was like, man, I was joking with her. I was like, I'm going to kill myself or some shit, man. But I wasn't really going to do no, just joking, talking shit. But they heard that shit in English, man. And they called me to the psychiatrist, man. And I was like, look, man, he's like, do you want to kill yourself? I said, no. I said, are you thinking of killing yourself right now? No. Okay, I'm gonna sit with you for an hour and then we're gonna see if you still want to kill yourself. I said, no, man, I don't want to kill myself, man. And then they're like, all right, man. I was like, look, man, I don't got no problems, man. I'm okay. I was just upset. I was just talking shit, man. I shouldn't have said that shit. He's like, all right. Go back to where you, and then one guy, when I was in the shoot, this guy was next door, he started yelling. They put him in like, he's like, I'm gonna kill myself. He was fucking yelling and he was banging on the door because he didn't want to be in the shoe no more, man. And then the cop came in there. He's like, you want to kill yourself, motherfucker? He's like, yeah. He's like, you sure you want to kill yourself? He's like, yeah. It's like, all right, motherfucker, you sure you want to kill? He's like, so you're gonna put you in a fucking paper suit and put your ass in the fucking room over there, the fucking dry cell. Hey, they put me in the fucking dry cell, man. Motherfuckers. Because this guy, when I was in the shoe, they were shipping me out. They put me in, I was in the shoe with this fucking guy in a wheelchair. And he's like, he wanted to go on a hunger strike, man. So they're like, oh, we can't have you in there with him. And then there's no more, the shoe is full and there was no other place. They put me right in the psych ward, the fucking dry cell where you can't flush the toilet, man. I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? And I didn't have shit. I'm like, man, my radio battery died, man. I'm like, what the fuck? I can't listen to no music, nothing. I'm fucking, no news, nothing. I'm stuck in this fucking dry cell. You can't shit. They gave me, he's like, look, man, they gave me a bunch of water bottles and like a little fucking like, what do you call like a fucking, look like a litter box for a cat? You know, I don't know what you call that, like a pan or something. And he's like, here, man, you can wash up in there. You gotta brush your teeth. You can wash up, and you gotta flush the toilet. Just next time we come in and check on you, you just tell us, I'll flush it, man. I'm like, man, I got a shit, dude. You gotta flush the toilet for me, man. I used to wash my ass with the water, and I didn't want to fucking. They're nasty in there, man. It was soap and water. And I washed up, and I didn't want to be dirty in there, man. It's fucking nasty and shit in there, man. Fucking dry cell. They call it a dry cell because like motherfuckers, if they swallow some kind of shit, drugs or something, and they're gonna go in there, they're gonna try to shit it out, right? Eventually, and they can't flush the toilet. It's gonna fucking be there. They can't. What are they gonna do with it? They got cameras. They'll see your ass. Fucking piece of shit. Put me in there, man. It was like psychological torture, man. I didn't give a fuck. I had a book. I was reading books in there, man. I had read like 5 books in there, man. Yeah, bro. I read like quantum physics books. Like fucking, I read this book about this guy named Alan Turing. He was a gay guy. And he invented that machine. He cracked the Enigma, the German Enigma code, and some other shit. He was but then he fucking started being gay. And in England in the 50s, you can't be gay because like it was like against the law or some shit. And then this motherfucker was like, the cop, like this guy, he was fucking some guy. Like they met some street in England or in London. Some gay street, and then they took this guy home with him, and the guy was known, and then fucking the guy, they stole all his shit. They stole his like possessions or something, and then he wanted to get it back, so he called the cops, and the cops came, and then they fucking looked through the house and seen this guy was a computer. He invented the computer, man. He invented the computer. That's why okay. So anyways, this guy he was so anyways, what happened, the cops found out he was gay, whatever. They threw his ass in jail. This guy worked for like Winston Churchill and shit like that. He was working for the OSS to decrypt German fucking encryption through the Enigma machine. They built like the special software. Well, it wasn't software, it was hardware, like these bomb machines. They're called the bomb, that basically like deciphered the combinations and like they tested all the combinations and then did all see if the message makes sense, right? Anyway, so he couldn't call Winston Churchill because that shit was classified. It wasn't declassified, right? So anyways, so this motherfucker was So then, anyways, they found out he was gay, whatever, and then that shit was they threw him in jail. So they said, "Hey, look, man, if you don't want to go to jail, then we'll give you like a chemical castration or something where like or some kind of shit where it like fucks you up." And he took it, and then he got out, and then he started like feeling weird. He started growing breasts and all kinds of shit. He was like weird, but that's because the chemicals they like hormone chemicals they were giving him and shit. And then you know what I'm saying? And then he fucking wanted to kill himself. He dipped an apple into cyanide and he bit into it, and then he died, right? And then his mom she said that maybe it was an experiment that he was doing, and because he was like dirty, he didn't really wash his hands a lot, and he cross contaminated the food he was eating with some like chemicals he was working with, but I don't know. But anyways, that's why the Apple Macintosh. They say it's coincident, but anyways, I read this in the book. They say that like the Apple from Macintosh, the Apple computers, why it has a apple that's bitten into, it was a tribute to Alan Turing, because Alan Turing was the father of computing. He invented like RAM and all this other shit. Like this was like he invented the first computers that could like think for themselves, kind of like the AI, but like back in those days, man. It was pretty interesting, man. Anyways, fuck that. I was reading other books. I read War and Peace, Leo Tolstoy. It was a big ass book about 1812, the fucking the war between Napoleon, France, and Russia, and Moscow, Russia. So they were fucking, they try to seize, Moscow and shit. And then when they got in, they broke in, and the Russians, they like set everything on fire. But it was like families. It was like told from different viewpoints of different families and shit. It was an interesting book, man. But it's fucking huge. It's like fucking thick as hell, man. I was in there reading the book. I was reading the book, man. Fucking. I didn't have shit else, man. What else can I do, man? Fuck that place. And then they shipped me that day, man. Like, I was ready to get the fuck out of there, man. So they took me from that shoe into the other prison, to the shoe in the other fucking prison, man. That's fucked up, man. That's fucked up, man. And then, oh yeah, one time they fucked us on in the shoe, the toilet in that other place. You can only flush it twice in 5 minutes. If you flush it more than twice, it locks out, man. Yeah, man. You want to be in a shoe locked up with no you can't shit, or you can shit, but you got to do it. You got to shit once and shit a lot with all your shit, and then flush it one time. Then you get a cup with hot water and soap, wash your fucking ass. And then fucking, you know what I'm saying? Then fucking flush that, and that's all the flushes you get, motherfucker. And wash your hands in the sink, and you're clean. And whatever. Then you can go read whatever the fuck you were reading, whatever the fuck. Man, I had a celly in there in the shoe, some motherfucker, man. The best watch is a Timex, man. You know why? I'm gonna tell you the best. Timex, you could fix that watch. I had to change the battery on my Timex, and you could do that with some fucking. They have 4 screws in the back of the case, and you can open it with a fucking scissors, man, or like a tweezers. And that was the easiest watch to fix, and it would work. Then if you get like a G-Shock, man, you ain't opening it. You need a screwdriver, and you ain't getting no damn fucking. You got to take it to like a motherfucker that works in the fucking. Yeah, man. Use your flushes. You only get 3 flushes, like 3 wishes. Use your wishes wisely, man. Yeah, man, you only get 2 wishes, 2 flushes. You better use your flushes wisely. If you don't, you're gonna be shit. You're gonna be covered in shit, man. You'll be shitting bricks, man. You better pray you don't have diarrhea, motherfucker. You be covered. Hey man, like if you get fucked up and you can't flush, you gotta tell the CO. You gotta call them. They gotta reset the toilet. Be like, hey man, can you reset the? If you flush it, if you flush it more than twice, it won't work for. It locks off for 30 minutes, man. And you fucking got like people with you in there. They're gonna be pissed if they got a shit and the toilet's locked out and you fucking locked it out. You're a motherfucker, man. You better not lock out the toilet, man. You ever had some shit like that? That's torture, man. Isn't that torture, man? I need an investment, man. Can you loan me some money for invest? Hey, listen to this, man. I know this guy. They were con artists, man. Listen to this shit, man. These guys, you ever heard of the Savannah move in the casino? And it's called the Savannah move. You ever heard of that? So what they do is they take two pieces, they take two chips, right? One chip is a $5 chip. The other chip, hang on, Ma. Hold on. Who is it? The feds, man. Who is it? Who is it? Кто? Кто? Мама где? Да, блядь, нахуй, блядь, сейчас сделаем такой вопрос. Да, блядь, нахуй, блядь, не включай это нихуя, блядь. Садись, блядь.
Buy the fucking Rolex. Buy the fucking Rolex. Get a bloody Rolex. Rolex. I mean, seriously, you've got to buy the fucking Rolex. Rolex. Buy the fucking Rolex. Rolex. Rolex.
Hello, I'm Archie Luxury and welcome to the program. Today I'd like to introduce a new service, Archie Luxury's Fashion Advice for a Fee. That's right, for $10 US, Archie Luxury, Fashion Advice for a Fee. A new service to fans of the Archie Luxury channel. I wear it as a dress. See, it's a man dress, see? Because it's long enough. So look, it's a dress. It's a dress. And I can go like that, can't I? Very simply. Send me the money to in the details section of this video is a PayPal address you can send the money to, and then send me a photo of your question. If it's say you want to know, does this briefcase, should I buy it? I'm a lawyer. Should I buy this briefcase or should I buy this one, or what do you recommend? And just tell me, give me a paragraph about what the problem is, and I'll answer it for you. I'll give you Archie Luxury's professional opinion. So there you go. Fashion advice for a fee. A new Archie Luxury service.
What you want is a patona. What you need is no patina. All I want to say, Brian, is I respect you just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. WICPKT. All the counts are zero to me. WISPQT. You are shit to me.
Bad brain.
Do you mind if I stay for a while? All snuggle up in each other's arms. Do you mind if I stay by your side? Just looking at you, all the time to go.
Is that a real blue sea? Wow. It's on my right hand, right hand. Hey, man.
What the fuck, man?
Hey, man.
Да блин, не надо мои тапочки, дай те другие тапочки, man. Да другие!
Talorgi, talorgi, talorgi. Talorgi, tiga no tiga.
What?
Hey, man.
Hey, look at my Jaguar, man. I got a Jaguar. Look at which one you think will win, the Jag. Я не хочу, отъебитесь. Я не хочу подарки, man. Я, блядь, занят тут, ну. Что я должен?